according to law. So help me God.
It's happened before, but it is nonetheless still rather extraordinary that somebody who was only elected or officially sworn in as an MP less than 24 hours ago, in 3 weeks' time, is going to be running the country.
Yes, I think it is rather extraordinary. I think the issue isn't whether someone like that should automatically have to hold a general election. If Andy Burnham wants to introduce major changes to our constitution, he's talked about overhauling the House of Lords. He's also talked about overhauling our electoral system, bringing in some form of PR. I think if he wants to do any of those things, he needs a mandate from the public to do them. To try and do them without calling an election, I think, would be a constitutional outrage.
I've got an interesting tweet. There's always a tweet, Julia.
Yep.
If I can just read this out to you from Andy Burnham 3 years ago. We need to start demanding a general election at the end of this Tory leadership election. Well, well, well. That was Andy Burnham actually 4 years ago in 2022. So we're saying stick by your word, be consistent, Andy, and when you're Prime Minister, call a general election.
The battle is really on, though, for number 11. Who's going to be the Chancellor? Ed Miliband, don't forget, has played an integral key role in this coup, and it is a coup because no one apart from 25,000 good people of Makerfield have voted for this guy. Yeah. So he's played a pretty integral role in undermining Keir Starmer. Keir Starmer and Ed Miliband aren't really speaking. He's going to want a big reward. But, he is, probably the most left-wing person in the government, and he will spook the markets.
Lou Hay, I mean, the reality is, look, she served her time. She was cast out of government. The reality is, as you said, she has been central to his campaign. She was central to his campaign in Makerfield. More broadly, she's been central to his campaign to enter Downing Street. He owes her, and she will definitely get a role. I'm not.
What do you say to the people that have texted me in their droves this morning? This is a really corny sentence, but it's true. That lawbreakers can't be lawmakers, Dan?
Yeah, I mean, but the reality is she's going to get a job. So the answer is yes, they can.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Very good morning to you. Just gone 6 o'clock. We're live across the United Kingdom. There's a spring in my step this morning. I am warning you. Tuesday, the 30th of June, the last day of the month. 1 week away from being 61. Oh, shut up, Carl. It's not about you. Welcome to the show, Alarm Clock Britain. Don't know what you're doing today or where you're at on the way to work, on the way from work. Trying to galvanise the kids. 0344 499 1000. Tommy is here. Any call you want to make will get you on. You can leave a voice note nice and early today. Same number, 0344 499 1000. And your text messages, 87222. For breakfast, start your message with the word talk. Straight away this morning, I'm going to say a very good morning to a woman who puts just real quality on a show that lacks so much. Poppy Coburn, good morning.
Good morning.
Are you all right?
Yeah, very good.
You don't look that happy. We're not going to say why. You're all right, though, aren't you?
Yeah, no, completely fine.
I need your help this morning. I need your help more than I've ever needed it. I'm going to try and with a blank piece of paper, give Andy Burnham the opportunity to at least... No, I'm not. Yesterday, he promised to... I'm going to read this to you, peeps. Rewire Britain, insisting he'd run the country from Greater Manchester or Number 10 North. That's fine, don't care about that. He's not going to live in Downing Street. He also announced the largest council house building programme since World War II, more power to the regions, and public control over essential services like water, energy and transport. So, pure socialism. Back to Kinnock. Forget even Blair. This is state intervention. This is masses of new social housing and a focus on technical education. Welcome to Andy Burnham's Great Britain. Peeps, and actually, Peeps Pops. No mention of the three biggest things that this country and the people of this country are demanding. Stop the boats, stop spending ridiculous money on net zero, do something about our energy by drilling in the North Sea, and do something about the welfare budget, which is why we're bloody well skint, right? Nothing. Word salad. Not being disrespectful, was really disappointed in it.
Well, I wasn't disappointed because I wasn't surprised. I think this is exactly what the Labour Party was going to do next. Because Keir Starmer at the beginning, if you can describe Starmer as anything, he actually was incapable of action. He wasn't actually able to put any of Labour's plans in place. But he was talking about all the same things as Andy Burnham. Constitutional reform, devolution. I mean, by the way, people, if you think that devolution works, go look at the SNP and go look at what's happening in Wales. Do you think those are well-run governments?
No.
They want to bring that to England.
And you want to talk about the councils you're going to give more control to. Birmingham's 300 billion in debt. With nothing. Well, you can take... I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 clips of Andy Burnham. Let's start with a really inspiring one. People need hope. I can't even speak. Morning, Andy.
Ours is a 10-year mission to raise people's living standards. I know people can't wait forever for change. I heard on doorsteps in Makerfield how people need a bit extra now to help with rising costs. I will do my very best to deliver it, and whilst not taking risks with the public finances, will seek to give Britain some breathing space as soon as I can. People need to be able to look forward to a night out or a holiday with the kids. People need hope.
Oh, hello. We're back. Be nice to know. So, Andy Burnham, people need hope. People need more money in their pockets, right? No detail. Absolutely no detail. Word salad, right? Number 10 in the North, fine. Here's the thing I didn't understand. If you've got this chance... I know what you're going to say, and you know what needs doing, and you completely ignore it. Do you know his percentage approval rating dropped 6% from last Monday after that speech? Straight away. Because that's not what the British people want. And then the real thing, the real kick for me was Andy Burnham, the man of the people, then strides away and refuses to take any questions from any journalist. You know Quentin Letts, the amazing sketch writer from the Daily Mail who's been around longer than my dad, and my dad's dead. He was banned from it because he's criticised him. So already we have a new Prime Minister who is refusing to take questions.
Let's not forget, we haven't had a general election.
We haven't even had a leadership competition yet.
25,000 votes has been all it's taken for Andy Burnham to be coronated at the head of a government that is historically unpopular at a time of multiple national crises. We do not have a say. No. And I criticise the Tories for this, by the way. I don't think that Rishi Sunak or Liz Truss should be put in place
Poppy Coburn.
By that.
Quite
and
right.
I definitely do not agree that this is how Labour is doing it. I think it's totally wrong.
I absolutely... Tim Stanley for The Telegraph, your paper, wrote, under the new number 10 North Korea, politics as we know it is over. Our Andy unveils his agenda for democratic renewal without consulting Parliament at a press conference that took absolutely no questions.
Yeah.
So we, on the Jeremy Kyle Breakfast Show, with the help of Poppy Coburn, have decided to do something this morning. He took no questions. I'm turning this show into a 4-hour press conference. This is a once-in-a-lifetime chance on 87222 or via voice note 0344... I'm going to regret this. 4991000. You can ask me anything between now and 10. We'll do all the stuff, but you can ask me anything at all, and I will answer you totally truthfully, unlike Andy Burnham.
Yeah.
Do you want to ask me anything?
What, unlike Andy Burnham?
No, would you like to ask me anything? Have a think.
Right.
What do you make of Andy Burnham, then? Seriously, I mean, he's got the sort of, I don't know how you describe it. He's got something, but you say you weren't disappointed. I was blown away about how bad it was.
I think ultimately he is a Labour apparatchik. If people who've known him for a really, really long time say that he goes with the wind, right? He just goes where he is popular. He will change himself into whatever the people around him want him to be. That is not a quality you need in a Prime Minister leading Britain right now. You cannot have another leader like Keir Starmer who immediately bends over when his backbenchers go, I don't want to do this because it feels mean, or that's not what I wanted to do. You need a Prime Minister that says, I'm in charge.
It's about making I have to say, I agreed with Kemi Badenoch the other day. It's about making difficult decisions and sometimes unpopular decisions. I genuinely thought the guy with 400 MPs who would lay down a road for him right now because they see him as the saviour. I thought he'd be a risk taker, but I repeat, and I say this to you lot, and I'd love to hear from you this morning, 0344 499 1000. With everything about a northern number 10 and power to the regions and state control, nothing about drilling and net zero, nothing about the welfare benefits bill, nothing about defence, nothing at all. Throw it out there about stopping the boats. Nothing about the grooming gangs inquiry. Things that he talks about the doorsteps of Makerfield. Get on the bloody doorsteps across this country because that's what people want. Yeah. They want the thing sorted. It didn't sound to me like he had any idea.
No, he hasn't got any idea. I mean, this is...
Shocking, man.
This is why he's looking at the constitutional reform stuff, because he knows there's no money. There's no money to spend in a way that a Labour Prime Minister would do, and he doesn't want to upset the backbenchers before he's even been made leader.
So we know how he'll do it. He'll print money or he'll raise taxes on the middle classes.
Taxes. Yeah. I promise you, he's going... And you know what else he's going to do? Here's an interesting stat I found out yesterday. Do you know that London only keeps 7% of its tax revenue? That's compared to 50% in New York and 70% in Tokyo. Only 7% of London's tax revenue actually stays in the city. The rest goes to the beloved north, like Andy Burnham always likes to talk about. How much more money is going to be transferred from the south to the north? I don't mind having a more equal country. I think I want us all to be prosperous. I don't think there should just be regions that have money and others that don't. I think it's disgusting that people have been left behind in this way. But he does not know how economic growth works. What he will do is he'll move the civil servants up there. He'll move a few public sector jobs up there. There'll be no industry. There'll be no private jobs.
I'm trying to... Sometimes, you know, when you read a newspaper thing late at night and I take photographs, and there was one line, and I'm only going to get this, it was talking about... oh, no, I've caught it. But basically it said that Ed Miliband, for example, if he's the Chancellor, his lot only work 4 days a week and most of them work from home. He'll go to Manchester, will he, 1 day a week? It'll be teams. The whole thing to me is incredibly... It was almost like a speech on the cheek. Let's get some response. Michael, so Burnham is not going to live at number 10. There will still have to be advanced security there, but now the cost will double to look after him, his family and his staff in Manchester. No consideration for the public purse from the get-go, says Michael. Good morning to Mark in Croydon. Morning, both. So Burnham's great idea is build more social houses. Will these be given to all the migrants who come over, like the ones in Stoke? Yeah. Great story. On the front page of The Sun today. Migrant Street. 83 asylum seekers moving into 250,000 new builds. 83 of them. This is a Sun investigation. Migrant Street in Stoke Heath, Shropshire.
That is such an important story because I hear all the time from people who are deciding that they want to defend Shabana Mahmood and this Labour government because they're just pleased they've got someone who they think is tough. Rubbish. She's not tough. When she says she is closing down asylum hotels, what does that mean? Does it mean these people have been deported?
No, they've just been left in the community.
No, they are being put in HMOs.
Yeah.
They are being put in new builds.
New builds?
They're coming to army bases near you. Villages like Bicester, literally it looks like something off a postcard. That's now going to have like a couple thousand asylum seekers placed on the outside of it. They are absolutely lying to you when they say they're tough. Her latest proposals, Shabana Mahmood, by the way, are members of the public are going to replace judges in deciding...
We did this yesterday. Do you know what I said? Do you know what I said? So I bet you any money, let's get adjudicators and get rid of judges. What I do is I change the law and I'd say to judges, if you don't meter out what I'm telling you is in the law, I'm going to sack your stupid backside out of this job. No, let's get the public to be adjudicators. How many of them will be illegal migrants who manage to get through the system so we tick a few boxes to then decide that illegal migrants can stay? That's the whole thing about Burnham. Nothing about the biggest problem that this country have, which is its borders. And the unfairness, and I go back to that word, it is in its all of its glory. A great piece. It's Julia Atherley this morning in The Sun. Migrant Street. 83 asylum seekers illegally, right, here, being given brand new houses. So if you're an alarm clock Brit this morning, it's only 6:10 and I've started already. Why would you be going to work? Why would you bother just doing everything when you hear that sort of story? It drives you mad, man.
Also, what does it mean to have an entire street, an entire community taken up by asylum seekers? I mean, the argument is always, and this is one of the reasons why we can't deport people, because the judges always take the line of the longer the state takes to deport people, and depending on where they house them, they can make an argument that they are now settled. They'll say, look, they have housing, they're settled in the UK, we can't possibly remove these people.
Do you know her other...
why any government that wants to actually take control of the country should say today that they're going to reverse every single one. Every single person who's come done the Shabana Mahmood's proposal will be thrown out. Every single one.
I've said it until I'm blue in the face, and some people get really offended by this. This isn't just pro-reform. We need to deport these people, which will involve detaining these people, which will involve 50% of this country throwing their hands up in shock, going, oh, my God, this is so unedifying. No, it's not, because if 83 illegal migrants can get £250,000 free houses whilst we wipe their backsides, whilst the 11 good people that listen to this are grafting this morning, right? That doesn't make any sense. Her other thing today is, and by the way, Mahmood, all she's doing is trying to balance keeping the job with Burnham whilst also trying to, and is again a typical Labour politician. Have you heard this? Other new proposals under Mahmood. Asylum seekers granted the right to stay in the UK would be required to repay the costs of taxpayer-funded hotel or HMO accommodation once they're working, with ministers arguing those able to contribute should reimburse the public. How are you going to change? We don't even know who they are or where they live. They've got no jobs, but we're going to wait 10 years for them to get a job to pay us back?
Yeah.
Get them out. Sorry, I don't... Why is that so unedifying to the left?
No, but
why am I such a heathen to say that, Pops?
This is what I have to use the term. It's useful idiots. People who believe Labour when they say that they are going to cut the boats, they're going to like get down on asylum seekers. They are lying to you.
Yeah.
They are deliberately formulating policies that look tough. So these useful idiots go, oh, look who's so Burnham and Moody. Look how tough she is. She's going to make them pay back the money. This is straight out of the New Labour playbook. Tony Blair did the exact same thing in the early 2000s. He said, we're getting tough on asylum seekers. He even said that he was thinking about leaving the ECHR. Of course they didn't, but they tell you that. So you go, oh, OK, you know what, maybe they're sorting it.
How long until Burnham's found out?
I think he's got about 3 months.
Well, it's really interesting. A wise old sage once told me that Starmer would be done within 2 years, and I laughed at him.
Yeah.
He says that by Christmas, Burnham will be in the toilet, in the bin, real trouble.
I think the time that now leaders have when they come into government, between the public going, OK, let's give him a fair shot, and saying, this is more the same, I'm sick of this, let's get someone else, is getting much shorter.
Right, voice notes, 0344 499 1000, text 87222. Remember, Andy Burnham yesterday refusing to take any questions, so today's show is a 4-hour live press conference with me, Jeremy Kyle. You can ask me anything. First one in, Poppy, from Steve. Did you use the same wedding vows each time you got married? Very good question, Steve. No, different words. Same, I don't know. Very good. Got me straight away. Can't remember that far back. Wayne, good morning.
Morning, Jezza. It's Wayne from sunny beach in Bulgaria. I'd just like to say, Jezza, there's more English speakers here than there is in Birmingham. My flight is booked for Friday, but I think me and the missus are going to jump on a boat and see what freebies we can get. Keep up the good work, Mr. Kyle. Have a great day.
Love it. Wayne on holiday, 0344 499 1000. Hi, Kyle. Somebody's missed the point there. It's Gary in Crete, normally from Canterbury. You notice everybody's buggered off. Why will Burnham be our Prime Minister when nobody voted for him? And also, if he is making sure he stays in Manchester, that will create extra costs on security, people travelling to and from Manchester. Surely that's a bad start. Yeah, we agree. Morning, Jez and Pops. I'm really enjoying the appointment of Andy Burnham. Who wouldn't want a commie in the top position in our country without being consulted? He uses more words to say even less than useless Starmer. And these morons determined to drive this country to civil unrest. I, for one, am totally fed up with the cream rising to the top when the cream happens to be the thickest part of the milk, says Gary in Bridgewater. That's a really good text. Good morning, JK. Morning, Pops. I have a couple of questions for Poppy about his plan to live in his house in Manchester. Does this now mean that if a new PM comes from Beverley in Yorkshire, they can move number 10 to East Yorkshire? Where does this end? And who's going to pay to bring his house up to the required security standards? Shouldn't it be him, not us? I have a horrible feeling this is not going to end well, says Colin.
Well, it's completely performative. He's doing this because he wants to pretend he's still the king in the north. If you want to be Prime Minister, you need to physically be around all of your ministers and Whitehall. So, as you say, is he going to do Zoom calls?
It's just a tick box.
Is he going to be a remote worker?
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Will anybody go to work in a Burnham government? Hello, JK and the gorgeous Poppy. So Andy B, said more power to the mayors. Bet old Khan's rubbing his hand, but no mention, says Bill, who's in Thailand. Nobody's here. No mention of where the money's coming from. That's the point. No mention of where the money's come. Andy, morning, Jez. Poppy, my question, how many bedrooms do you have in your house? Oh, this is Ask Me Anything. How many bedrooms do I have in the house? Sorry, 1, 2, 6.
You have 6 bedrooms?
Well, hold on a second. I've got 6 kids.
You've got 5 more than me.
Well, you haven't got any kids, have you?
No.
Well, what do you want any bedrooms for, then? Oliver's room, Iris's room, the girls' room, Henry's room, my room, Vic's room, 6. Yeah. Morning, both. So, Why did I do this? This is the Jeremy Kyle Ask Me Anything 4-hour press conference. I will open my life up to you. 0344 499 1000. Morning, guys. So Burnham's great idea is to build more social houses. Will these be given to all the migrants coming over, like the ones in Stoke? Yeah, absolutely. Nathan's in Perth. Have you noticed it's the same rubbish from Burnham? Reads it off a script like a child. Whoever is writing these scripts is completely missing the point. Guys in Scotland, people... Why did I do that? Guys in Scotland, brave man. People need hope now. Britain will end up with Mr Hopeless 2.0. All talk and no answers. And Dave in Cullen says, where are the breakfast clubs? What's happening? And didn't Angela Rayner build all the houses we were going to need?
Well, apparently she's given them all away.
I don't disagree with that. This will probably go down like a lead balloon with you. I think this house building... I'm not talking about who they give them to. I think we need to build houses. I think, and I hate those politicians of all parties who go, yes, we need more houses, but not in my constituency.
Yeah.
And I think that everything that's labelled green, I think there are brown areas, disused petrol stations and warehouses. You could build things. But the problem is... He should have stood up and said, I'm going to build them for the people in this country who are homeless, not to basically, as the Sun again proves today, there is migrants, are giving free houses away to people who shouldn't be here anyway.
Until the government can prove the new houses are going away to young professionals who want to start a family, older people who want to downsize, homeless people who need the support, until they can prove they're going towards the people who actually need the housing, instead of them being handed away, randomly seized by the government and turned into council housing, you have no power whatsoever, by the way. If the government decides it wants to move these people in next door to you, there's nothing you can do about it, not a single thing. I think that's why the planning system is so broken, because people say, this is the only control I've got left in my life, so if I can block this, at least I can guarantee that the government's not going to ruin my community. How sad that we've got to that point, because, you know, it's obviously my generation that then suffers. It's the fault of the government, ultimately.
Completely
I don't blame people for being NIMBYs, actually, because I totally get it. You know, if you don't want your community to be taken over overnight by something like this, why wouldn't you say no to everything? Until the trust is back, we're going to have a broken housing system.
Couldn't agree more. Morning, Tony.
Morning, Jazzy. Morning, Poppy. I am absolutely fuming this morning. These people going into Stokeheath in Shropshire, the 83 migrants moving into £250,000 brand new houses. This isn't a deterrent. What sort of a magnet is this for more immigrants? They're going to get on the phone and say to the family, oh, look, come over to England. You'll get a £250,000 house. This is bloody disgusting and it needs to stop. Keep up the good work, mate.
Lara Bird on Monday walked into the House of Commons as the new MP for Arbroath. She had a lot of attitude and held up her fingers as if she wasn't telling the truth and didn't really respect the king, and that was picked up online.
So I think if you're silly and trivial in that way, you rather deserve to get caught out, but I'm afraid everyone will now remember her as the fake Scottish accent lady.
The UK on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Good morning, my friends. Welcome to Tuesday's edition of the Jeremy Kyle Breakfast Show on Talk, the home of common sense and the home of course, Alarm Clock Brits. Most of you up in arms today about the word salad that was Andy Burnham's speech. He talked about relocating to the north. He talked about regional power popping, but he didn't talk about drilling in the North Sea and dealing with our energy prices or agreeing to an inquiry about the appalling rape gang crisis that has engulfed this country. He didn't talk about lowering your taxes. He didn't talk about defence. He didn't talk about stopping migrants. He didn't talk about so much, but he did talk just about people needing hope. Angry Rob is probably more angry than he's ever been. Morning, Mr. Angry.
Morning, Jez. Morning, Pop. Rob, on his way to work. Got to be honest, I'm absolutely furious. Burnham's going to move up north. Andy, yeah, mad for it. Manchester. Thinks he's Liam Gallagher. He wants to do one, mate. He's going to cost us double, just for his place up north, as well as down south in London. The bloke has got about as much acumen when it comes to creating business, wealth and industry as a flea. He's an absolute useless idiot. As for the rest of them, well, you're on about Migrant Street and all of that. I mean, that's another one, isn't it? And all these left-wing people are up for it. They love it. The Labour Party can't get enough of it. Why? I'll tell you why. Because it's a toss-up in their heads what they hate more, themselves or the right. The people who think that going to work, paying your taxes and obeying the law is a good thing to do. They just cannot understand where we're coming from. They won't be happy until they're set in a pile of ashes and then they'll go, that was your fault. They just can't see it.
I want to give him... Robbie got to come in one day. People are demanding... He's also touching upon that story that's really got everybody going quite rightly. Front of the Sun, Migrant Street. If you are on your way to work, why'd you bother? Turn home. 83 asylum seekers are moving into £250,000 new builds. It's Stoke Heath in Shropshire. It's bang out of order. Yeah, it is more than bang out of order. It's an absolute pee take out of anybody who works hard. Roger from Wales, Pops, has got a suggestion. How about we have a number 10 relocated to Migrant Street in Shropshire?
I mean, that would certainly be able to then put him in some of the spare rooms in number 10.
I was going to say, why don't we fill number 10 with migrants? This is the whole thing. None of them have... This is why I got so angry at the Bell Hotel and those wonderful women down in Epping. They went to their council and their council said, we understand your worries and your concerns about the school next door. And they went to the court and Starmer's government said the rights of migrants are more important than the rights of people. It's disgusting. Sally in Bedfordshire, will number 10 now be an HMO? Oh, you've got it. Dave's in Canterbury. Pops, if they build... Not me. If they build millions of homes, how are they going to supply them with water? Where's it going to come from?
Well, not from the new reservoirs that keep getting blocked, so that's why we keep having blackouts.
Absolutely true. Morning both. This speech of Burnham's yesterday paused for applause and cheers, but did not offer the opportunity for questions. It was more like a mini rally. But it was definitely not a conference, as a conference offers debate and discussion, says Dave in South Gloucester, which is why, my friends, this morning, this show is a 4-hour... you can ask me anything. I'll take questions this morning. Have you thought of anything you'd like to ask me? No?
I was already going to ask you how many rooms you've got in your house.
All right.
Someone's already asked you.
Jeremy Kyle, good morning. How tall are you? From Nathan. Pops?
5 foot... 10?
No, 9. 5,
See,
9.
if I said 5, your face turned.
I know, my face went 5'4". No, I am shrinking, though. That's another thing that happens. Did you know that? When you get older, your feet get bigger, your nose gets bigger and you shrink. I'm not going about anything else. But you shrink. So 5
So what
foot...
are you now, 5'3"?
5'8.5", I think, to be honest. I love this. How were you treated as a top ITV star during the Jeremy Kyle Show days? I don't think... I mean, they built me an outside smoking hut and brought me sushi for lunch every day and ironed my socks, but that's the nearest I got to... Will.i.am was really hacked off one day.
Oh, yeah?
I didn't like him. He had Will.i.am, so I put jer.e.my on my door and he didn't find it very amusing. Anyway, he didn't have a... He sort of arrived...
You could make, like, smoked salmon. You could bring your sushi and leave it in the smoking hut for a while.
They brought me sushi and stopped for a cigarette break. Yeah, and you know, it was hard. It was grafting. It was really good. Dave's in Aberdeen. At least when the Cabinet moves north, they can use HS2. He's bringing HS2 back, isn't he? No. Burnham, isn't he? Oh, God, she's gone now.
How many £billion have we spent on that?
That was about
railway
80.
That doesn't work.
Paul says, this country, Poppy and Jez, is an absolute joke. I despise this government. I'm 47 years of age and still have to rent a room off my mum because my local authority deems me as a low priority and they won't do anything for me. Oh, God. Paul! Jez and Pop, surely people cannot be so gullible. They're getting excited by this so-called Messiah of the North. His speech yesterday was a load of word salad, nothing constructive, no explanations on how he's going to achieve what he's saying. Empty, shallow words.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's true. That's Burnham.
But isn't that interesting? I don't know, mate. You were very cynical last week, and I was like, well, give the bloke a chance. I was massively disappointed. Let's just repeat to people. He wants to rewire Britain, that's stuck in a rut. To rewire Britain, he's going to run it from Manchester, number 10 up north. That's, I don't care. The largest council housing building programme since the Second World War, but we were promised that by Starmer. More power to the regions, we were promised that by Starmer, and imposing public control over essential services like water, energy and transport. Because he's got a B-line bus in Manchester. Yeah. But as you said, you want to devolve more power. Look at what the SNP did in Scotland. Yeah. Look at the Welsh Labour Party.
All I would say to people is people who will go, well, you know what, to be fair to him, look what he's done to Manchester, he's helped Manchester. What has he done with Manchester? Where did he get the money from
They all tell me he changed Manchester. I worked there for 15 years. I speak to people who say, actually, not much.
It's not private money that's coming in. It's not that he's attracting business. They're really trying, but they are not actually attracting business on a big scale. What they're doing is they're taking money from a Westminster pot and they're putting it into their communities. That is not the same thing as organically allowing growth. Some people have done that very well, by the way. Ben Houchin, you know, he's done a really, really good job of bringing private finance into his constituency and actually helping things. He's obviously the mayor. He's done a fantastic job. Burnham, I'm not sure he's up to it. I don't actually think he knows what it takes. All he knows how to do is take taxpayer money, then give it back to you through public projects and go, look how brilliant I am. Well, it's your money.
I thought that it was worse than that. I thought it was Starmer 2.0, and again, maybe I'm a bit naive. I'm thinking to myself, are you deaf? Have you got no will? Do you just want to be Prime Minister? I'm going to say this all morning. Right? If you look at the front page of The Sun and you see 83 migrants getting 250 grand houses and you are an alarm clock Brit, you are appalled. That doesn't make you far right. It doesn't make you racist. It makes you a person who thinks, why is it so unfair to me? When you hear your would-be Prime Minister not talk about our borders, not talk about our ridiculous energy costs, which is why we have no growth and our businesses are closing because our energy is the highest cost anywhere in the world, literally that. When you hear about a guy who won't attack the benefits bill. I thought, this is how stupid I am, I genuinely thought I've got 400 MPs who owe their existence to me right now and I'm going to show that I've got conviction and I'm a leader. Not at all. No. Colin, good morning.
Morning, Jez. Morning, Pop. It's Colin, truck driver from Blackburn. Hey, that's me. I'm just coming back out from Belgium. And believe this or not, there's an SO garage in Buick in Belgium and it's full of migrants and there's 2 buses there just about to pick them up to take them down towards Calais. Hallelujah, praise the Lord, let's get some more of them back in it. A nice £250,000 house. Forget the frigging jobs, they shouldn't be there anyway. Just get them out, get them out. All the best, ciao for now.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. 25 to 7, Tuesday morning, June the 30th. Poppy Coburn is here reacting. She's just made such a brilliant point during the break. The Sun's front page, migrant street, causing complete consternation, quite rightly. 83 asylum seekers moving into 250 grand new houses. This is really important, what she's going to tell you now.
So if you actually read the story, the way that estate was sold to the local community is that they were all going to be social housing. They were put aside not for the market, but for social housing. So when people say, OK, that's great, we can let people in who are vulnerable, young mothers, elderly people who need their home, want to support people in the local community, that's what they mean by social housing. That's where it's going. So when Andy Burnham says he's going to build 100,000 homes that he's going to use for social housing, who is going to be put in those homes?
Absolutely.
Because we know when the law was changed in the 70s to be on the basis of need versus, you know, community relations, the people who get put to the front of the queue are those who declare themselves homeless. And who is homeless by definition? Asylum seekers. They will always go to the front of the queue.
Do you know, sometimes I sit here and I think, you know, people will say to me, oh, you go on about it every day. Because of text messages like that, listen to this, messages like we've just had. Mick, Jez, it's extortion. Illegal migrants put in new 250 grand houses paid for by raiding our ISAs and our pension savings. Are Al Capone and Jimmy Hoffa in charge? And we can laugh about it, but I repeat this and I say people can take it as they want. If you're in your truck or on the way to school or you've been already on your journey, you've done a night shift, I don't care if this gets me fired. Why the bloody hell would you do that? Why would you go to work and pay tax and live within the confines of the law if you can pitch up in this country illegally and be given a brand new free... It doesn't make any sense to me.
No.
That is madness. That goes beyond, oh, let's care about other people. Care about your own people who are working, for God's sake.
Your money is not going to go towards making the country better for your kids and your grandchildren.
Absolutely.
It's not going towards new roads, to new hospitals, to new schools. It's going towards schemes like this. When they are building social housing, they'll claim that's an infrastructure project. It's not going to you.
I'm so with you. We have to talk very quickly. We have to go to LA. You like to go to LA?
I would
more than
love to.
Marbella.
Yeah,
Very
exactly
good
what
morning.
it is.
Kinsey Schofield, good morning.
Hi, JK.
Why don't you listen? Come here in a boat. You'll get a 250 grand house, Kins. Unbelievable this morning. Literally, let's just give everything away. But I have to grab you nice and early, and it's late for you, and I thank you. This Harry and Meghan story, which exploded yesterday, ain't.
Wait. I don't get to ask you a question?
Oh, God, yes. Well, now, right here, can I just say this? So, yesterday, Andy Burnham refused to answer any questions, so I decided today's programme would be a 4-hour live press conference, and you can ask me anything.
Well, blondes or brunettes, Jeremy Kyle?
Brunettes. Brunettes, I have to say that because my third wife's
you're married
brunette,
one.
and my second wife was... And my first wife, I can't remember what colour her hair was, probably grey. But yeah, brunettes, Kinsey Schofield. And I'm looking at Poppy and I'm thinking, I'm doing all right here. It's a double whammy. Christian's looking at me through very, very strange eyes. Frankly, if a woman's not bald, I'll go... No, I'm joking. Right, listen, thank you very much. How's America?
It's not as chaotic as what I'm hearing from you and Poppy this morning. I'm actually feeling pretty good about our 250th anniversary right now.
Well, there's a link, isn't there? You're having a 250th anniversary and we give away 250 grand houses to illegal migrants and let them live in them. Page 19 of The Sun, this story is not going away. I was reading so much about this. Harry and Meghan, of course, were supposed to be coming over the Invictus Games. They were allegedly offered royal residence. He's kicked off, via her, undoubtedly. The title this morning, Royal Row ahead of UK. Harry deserves security just like Rushdie. It is an extraordinary thing that if you really cared about your sick dad, you would come under the radar with your children, accept the help that you've been given and the residents, and not make a fuss when apparently your whole desire is to turn people's opinions around, which isn't going to happen, but you're making it worse.
Harry and Meghan have an inflated sense of their own importance. And when they aren't twerking on Instagram, they behave as though they're heads of state. When the courts have repeatedly affirmed that they are private citizens who no longer perform official royal duties. This case, in my opinion, exposed a fundamental disconnect between how Harry sees himself and how the British government sees him. Harry believes he deserves the same level of protection as Rushdie, as a working royal. The government looked at intelligence and concluded otherwise. They concluded he does not. They want all the privileges of being senior royals without accepting the reality that they walked away from that role. They quit their jobs.
And I'm so with you, because people all day yesterday were saying, do they deserve security from the state? Yes, he's a royal. But the truth of the matter is, we go back there again. If you don't want to be part of something, which is your right, the reason you're so unpopular, you couple of chumps, is that you then go away, sign any and every deal which goes against your desire for privacy, to sell secrets about the very organisation you apparently want nothing to do, and then when you realise you're out in the cold and you need to start ingratiating yourself, you then want the same benefits, but you're not doing the hard jobs. That doesn't work in any walk of life, Kins, does it? That doesn't work in any walk of life.
And security isn't based on celebrity or status. It's based on risk. And we don't have access to this intelligence, but I feel confident in Ravik's, declaration that he is not owed automatic armed police protection when he lands that shadows him constantly. And that is what he wants. I think it's unreal that we're having this conversation, Harry trying to paint himself as the victim, saying that this shocked him at the 11th hour. Well, you went to court and you were denied. Do you really think that the king is going to challenge a ruling when he's working so hard to avoid the look of privilege in the royal family?
It's such a great point. And also, he can't override that decision that was taken. I'm so with you. And the other thing, it doesn't frustrate me because I'm bored of it, but the truth of the matter is that they're so lacking in intelligence that if they saw this as a little beginning of a bridge building situation, they've ruined it. They've made it even worse. They're sat in Portugal. She's probably in his ear going, we should be getting this, we should be getting that, we should be getting... No. And he's going, well, I want my grandchildren to meet my father. I think the father is the only person who wanted him to come. I think, we talked about this yesterday, I think Camilla and William and Kate are as one. This will absolutely be the final nail. Apparently he blames the men in grey suits, you know, the courtiers, of which my old man used to be one. He blames them for this. But the truth of the matter is, this is them of their own doing. Proportionate protective security. Pay for it yourselves. I'm not going to go, oh, I've arrived at Aisha. Is this simply because he's the son of the king? He doesn't want to be the son of the king, does he? He doesn't want to be royal. He doesn't want to do any graft. It's like the people in this country, this argument now, being given something for nothing. Why should he get something for nothing?
He specifically told Oprah Winfrey and others that being a member of the royal family, specifically his father and brother, were like trapped in jail. We're trapped in a prison in being working members of the royal family. You chose to leave that life. But can I just say, too, I've seen something on social media that really disturbed me. Harry's tried to paint this as a kumbaya moment, this redemption tour. You know, he's making nice with the royal family, so we should all applaud him and like him again. But, one of the biggest anti-Catherine trolls on Twitter, a huge member of the Sussex squad that is hateful and dishonest about Catherine and her family, recently posted that she has confirmation to an Invictus event next week. Now, why are Harry, who go and campaign against online bullying, giving access to somebody that is hateful and bullies Catherine and her family on social media?
Because they are run through with jealousy about William and Kate. It is patently obvious to anybody. She is stoic and classy and has been through the hardest time. And Meghan Markle thought she would mince into the royal family and she'd be Queen Bee. And that girl from a middle-class background blew her out of the damn water. And nobody's ever said that because it would be so upsetting. Meghan Markle met a match and I and Kate blew her out of the water, and she'll never, ever be able to handle it.
Mic drop. That's a nice way to...
Oh, sorry, that's Poppy blowing her nose. That was good. Also, Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. This was a massive story yesterday. Shamed Andrew makes his first public outing since the beginning of his Sandringham exile as he joined brother Edward and wife Sophie at horse trials. Are you quite surprised they were seen with him?
He did keep his distance. Apparently, he watched, like, hidden behind some trees of these horse driving trials.
That's not a good look, is it, for him? That's not a good look.
It's not. It's really not. But you know what? I have a very soft spot for Duchess Sophie, and he was there to support her. And I'm not mad at him for being there. You know, he has a very limited social life. He's there to support a family member. Yes, I wish he'd just go away and disappear. But if he's there to support a family member and trying to hide away, I don't have much to complain about.
My concern about a man whose judgment is so appalling that he maintained best friend status with the world's convicted paedophile is hiding behind a tree watching some people ride horses is not a particularly good look on a Monday afternoon, especially in dark glasses, but that's another story. When are you coming? I'm very excited. When are you here?
I see you this weekend.
Ah, it's my birthday on Tuesday.
I know, I've got it marked down.
Get it marked down, because you're interviewing me on my birthday, I think. It's great.
I can't wait.
I love to see you. Take care, Pops. Pops. Oh, Poppy, I've called Poppy Kinsey and Kinsey Poppy. It's the brunette thing.
I'm flattered.
She's gone very quiet when you're on. Do you get a little bit jealous of Kinsey?
Very rude. No, not when you're calling me the wrong name. That makes me jealous.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mary. Right, Dave, thanks a lot. I'm joking. Kinsey, you're a legend. Thank you very much, Steve. 6:45, we're live across the United Kingdom. This is Jeremy Carr. Poppy Coburn is here. Jez and Pops. All I could hear in my head during Burnham's dreary speech yesterday was the music from the old Hovis ad playing in the background. Had to walk up bloody hill first thing in the morning. It's grim up north, says Mark in Stratford. Just want to throw it out there about Burnham. Didn't take any questions. You can ask me anything. This is a 4-hour live press conference. While all of this was going on, Keir Starmer, do you remember him?
I do.
He was cementing his legacy by announcing his long-waited-for defence payment review, spending review, and what a legacy it's turned out to be. He's facing accusations of leaving Britain's armed forces underpowered after revealing a £14.5 billion defence package. It's only half of what military chiefs had asked for. That's exactly why his defence secretary and armed forces minister resigned. It basically plans include replacing high-end destroyers with 6 lower-cost drone warships, or as the legend that is Damien, G-Spot said, origami ships, prompting warnings the Navy is being forced to do more with less. Well done, Keir. Great legacy, you total Oh, Nilly, go on. No, I didn't say a word.
So we're now, I think, the lowest performing country in all of NATO because of the underfunding. So the idea that Keir Starmer is going to be able to waltz into this job and say, yeah, hello, I was the one that the last thing I did when I was Prime Minister of the United Kingdom was to make sure that there wasn't any ships in Britain, there weren't any soldiers to actually man the ships, that we're totally unprepared for modern warfare. Don't even talk to me about drones, what's that? No idea. He thinks that he's the person that's going to lead NATO into its future. Really?
I mean, it is almost unbelievable how, having been ousted from the most important job in the land, that yesterday he put it out there that he'd like to be the Secretary-General of NATO, because defence and he are really great buddies. Can you imagine him going around Europe going, hello, I'd like you to spend more on defence. You didn't. Yeah, we're not listening to you. Oh, all right, then I'll go back home. No, a complete nightmare. And today it turns out that he's given only half of what the armed forces need. It's unbelievable, isn't it?
I actually am starting to believe that Keir Starmer might be delusional. I really think... I have to think that, because think about it. He's the most unpopular Prime Minister we've ever had. He's absolutely despised by everyone in his cabinet. Everyone is telling him, Keir, you've got to go. We all despise you. You've got to get out of the job. And what does he do? I'm staying here. I'm staying here.
I'm not moving.
Until the very last moment.
I want an election to change Britain for better. I want my legacy to be known as I'm going to leave the Navy with 6 origami warships. It's an absolute joke.
I think he needs to see a doctor.
Well, he might well... listen, he might well do. I mean, but the fact is Burnham didn't actually talk about defence, did he? Right, OK. Poppy, I don't want you to... This show changes on a daily basis. Andy Burnham refusing to ask questions from journalists. So this today I decided was a 4-hour live press conference. Ask me anything. This is from Leslie in Norfolk. Jez, my question is, have you got any animals at home? Absolutely only one, which I loathe and detest. It's a what's it called? I can't bear it. The kids... What is it? Not a hamster. Well, again, no, it's a hamster, and I can't even abide the thing. It's called Stripey. I don't want any animals in my perfect house. I hate them.
You're a bit of a clean freak, aren't you?
I am absolutely clean. I'm wondering where Larry's basket's going to be, London or Manchester. And then she said, I don't want to pick, but I thought Bicester was announced Bicester, but not Bicester.
Oh, have I got it completely wrong?
Yeah, but I was going to pick you up on it. But Leslie in Norfolk says basically you got it wrong.
It's not my fault.
It's a really difficult question for me, but I'll try and be honest, as I said it would be. I've just been wondering, Mr. Carr, was it the left or the right one you lost to cancer?
God, there's no whole bars here for you, is there?
Right.
Right.
What happened there? Why didn't I know that?
That is concerning. You don't know what the colour of your wife's hair is, and you don't know which one of your...
Which ball I had cut off. It's not funny. Sorry, cancer's not... How can you laugh at me? I went through a terribly... You're all howling through the glass.
You know who else had that?
I've got it, by the way. It's a big story for you. I've got it in a jar.
You know who else had that?
What?
You know who else had that?
Who?
History's greatest monster.
Who's History's greatest monster?
You know who else? Are you seriously? You don't know about this?
No.
You weren't paying attention in school.
No.
Adolf Hitler.
Oh.
Sorry to tell you.
This is good.
I'm really sorry to tell you.
I know where that's going. I know where that's going. Because, of course, you know the story about the most hated man in the world that I did the other day? Do you know this story?
No, what's this?
GQ magazine did many years ago. The agent rang me up and went, it's not great, to be honest. No, so they've done GQ magazine have done a poll for the most hated man in the world, and Adolf Hitler's come 5th. And Pol Pot's came 4th, and Saddam Hussein's come 3rd, and you've come 2nd. And Osama bin Laden's come 1st, and when Osama bin Laden was killed, they gave it to me posthumously. Brilliant. So much you learn on the Jeremy Kyle Breakfast Show. I lost my right testicle to cancer and have been, in fact, more unpopular than Osama bin Laden. Paul, it's an open press conference today, 10 to 7. Gather yourself together. We are amongst we are political royalty. Next, the Deputy Leader of Reform UK and the MP for Boston and Skegness. We say a very good morning to Richard Tice. Good morning, Richard Tice.
A very good morning, Mr. Kyle, and happy birthday for the weekend. You're catching me up, age-wise.
Oh, I thought you were younger than me, Richard. So yesterday, Andy Burnham refused to take questions, and I've turned this morning into a 4-hour live press conference. Do you have a question for me, Richard Tice?
Well, no, I've got questions for Mr. Burnham, given that he's going to be coronated as our next Prime Minister. I'd quite like to ask him some questions in the House of Commons on the floor of the House. You know, we're not going to be able to challenge him until the first week of September, despite the fact he's going to take over running the country as of about the 17th of July. I mean, it's absolutely extraordinary. And
this is a really important point, isn't it? Because Parliament is in recess for the summer, and Andy Burnham, as it works out, and it is absolutely appalling, won't have to face any MPs with anything, just word salad that he's given out.
So it looks like he's not going to take any scrutiny or questions from members of the press, and no scrutiny from MPs until early September. So he's basically going to have sort of almost 2 months just sort of glad-handing around the country. I've got a new expression for him.
Yeah.
It's the Burnham babble. He just babbles on, a whole load of vacuous claptrap. And, you know, when you look at that press conference yesterday, I mean, it was a pretty dull and sort of grey backdrop. There were no British flags. You know, there was no sort of patriotism to him. There was no message on the front of the lectern as to, you know, hope in every heart. Oh, how lovely. It's just babble. It's just absolute gibberish.
Well, listen, I'm not without total agreements with you. When you talk about rewiring Britain and a circuit breaker and moving Number 10 to the north, we can
hope in every heart.
Oh, yeah, we can do. But the fact is, Richard, and I said this to your future wife yesterday, and she agreed with me. If Burnham had the balls, I know I've only got one. If he had the moral and political conviction, please take this not as a criticism of your party or any others, to stand in front of 400 MPs who are basically putting their future in his hands and go, there are 3 things that need doing in this country. We need to drill, because we've got the highest energy costs in the Western world. That's why our businesses are on their backsides. We need, without any shadow of a doubt, to stop the boats, and we need the will to deal with that, even if it involves the road. No, of course not. No. And we need to attack a welfare benefits bill. All we got from this guy was state intervention, lots of new housing, and lo and behold, as Poppy Coburn from The Telegraph, who's here, said, and she's dead right, social housing, Andy, yeah? What, like the 83 illegal migrants who get a £250,000 house? It's disgusting, Richard Tice. People have had enough of it. It's outrageous.
Absolutely outrageous. You didn't mention any of those things. Those are the key things that are really, really winding people up. Statistic I read in the papers this morning, only 13% of asylum seekers, after 5 years of living in the UK, having been granted asylum, only 13% earn more than 20,000, which is less than 2/3 the average national salary. In other words, 5 years on, 80% continue to be a massive burden on the British taxpayer. So they're not doctors, they're not engineers, they're not computer programmers. Actually, they're just a burden on hard-working Brits. And that's literally why everybody's taxes are going up and feeling so poor. And that Migrant Street, I mean, so you got Migrant Street next to Benefit Street, next to Scrounger Street. I mean, you know, before you know, you get a whole town of...
well, we reckon on this show this morning that Andy Burnham should relocate number 10 to that Migrant Street, and number 10 should be used as an HMO. Listen to this, though, Richard, because this sums up for me why I do this job. Paul in Stoke. Jez, I can't tell you how angry I am this morning. Both my wife and I work 50 hours plus a week, and we can hardly afford the bills on our terrace house. But these illegals come here and get a brand new semi-detached for free. This and former governments are traitors to Alarm Clock Britain. Why do I live my life correctly when I'm being screwed all the time? And I get that, Richard, don't you? Totally.
Well, that's why so many millions and millions of people wanted Starmer out, and Burnham has just vacuously ignored all of that. And I just think it's important. Everybody has to understand we are the victims of a coup. This is literally a coup in a major democracy. Someone's just rocked up that 7 million people weren't of voting age when he was last in the House of Commons until just over a week ago. No one knows who he is apart from the good folk of Manchester. And, you know, actually his track record's pretty woeful. He won't take any questions. I mean, it's like a sort of president just drifting around some African republic, for heaven's sake.
It's really scary. And just very quickly, I know you haven't got much time today, and we appreciate it. And to make, you know, we're all sitting there going, God, Starmer was appalling. Yeah, and he's going to announce his defence review today, which is going to give the defence services $14.5 billion when they wanted 28. He thinks this is a legacy. Damon from the show is right. They're going to replace some high-end destroyers with 6 lower-cost drone warships that are probably made out of origami. He should just disappear as quickly as possible, but the future doesn't look too bright under Burnham.
Well, the future never looks bright, basically, under hard socialists and... you know, lefties. That's the simple reality that everybody needs to remember. And the fact that 400 Labour MPs elected under a Labour manifesto concluded that none of them were good enough to run the country, so they had to sort of reach out to some bloke in a T-shirt that most of the country's never heard of, just shows how desperate they are.
Couldn't agree more. We're not going to see Richard Tice in a black T-shirt with waxed eyebrows, then?
No, Jeremy. It's a simple word. Unless you're inviting me to a very trendy birthday party at your place.
Well, I thought maybe you could do that at the wedding. What about a black T-shirt and waxed eyebrows at the wedding? Mate, great, thank you. And just to repeat, Andy Burnham, he needs to answer questions, doesn't he?
He needs to answer questions. If he's going to be our Prime Minister, then he needs to face some accountability and some scrutiny and tell us how he's going to pay for all this stuff.
We've already renamed him Andy Burden here. Andy Burden, because he's going to be a burden on the British public. But Richard Tice...
Burden Burnham, I love it.
Lovely. Babble salad. Listen, thank you so much indeed, my friend, taking time out. Poppy, can I use you for 10 minutes after the news at 7, or have you got to go?
I've got to go, I'm sorry.
Brilliant. Thrown out, completely done.
I'm sorry.
We love you, Poppy. She got to go to work. News at 7 next on Talk.
This idea that there's somehow a climate catastrophe just because you get the odd hot day, the odd cold day, the idea that we should turn our society upside down in order to change the weather, we can't. Ever since we had an electricity system that's fundamentally run to reduce emissions rather than to produce affordable and reliable power, we've been getting ourselves into trouble. The main beneficiary has been Communist China because they're making the solar panels and the windmills that are mucking up our power supply.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
The question my party is asking now is whether I am best placed to lead us into the next general election. I have heard the answer of my parliamentary party to that question, and I accept that answer with good grace. Every decision I've taken has been about putting the country I love first. That is why I will resign as leader of the Labour Party.
Well, you know what? In the end, he did do the right thing, and there were some achievements, and he's an honourable man, and he cared about public service. Guys, that's not what happened just now. In the last half an hour, Keir Starmer resigned, and he resigned because he was pushed. Most of his issues, most of the things which have damned him from, let's face it, within days, within weeks of him becoming Prime Minister back in July 2024, or of his own making. They were things he chose to do, cutting the winter fuel allowance, damning everybody who wanted to have a public inquiry on the grooming gangs as jumping onto the far-right bandwagon, the two-tier policing after the Southport riots. This man brought it on himself. He was not a good Prime Minister.
There was two things on that manifesto. One was a picture of Keir Starmer and the word change. Well, promise made and promise delivered in that sense. Let's be honest. But look, I mean, I don't really want to make light of it, but I am cheesed off, Julia, because what we promised in opposition was competence, and it's been anything but. I'm embarrassed. I'm really, truly, honestly, I am embarrassed because I did think we would be competent. We've not been.
I've no idea whether there'll be a contest or a coronation. But what I do know is the British public have simply had enough of political parties chopping and changing their leaders at will. We vote for somebody in a general election to be our Prime Minister. We expect them to serve their term. And barring ill health or exceptional circumstances, what is going on here, frankly, is reminiscent of a banana republic that has totally devalued the very process of general elections and democracy. We at Reform demand a general election.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Good morning, my friends, and welcome along or welcome back. Just gone 7 o'clock. What is it? Tuesday, the 30th of June. This is JK on Talk Breakfast, the home, of course, of common sense and the home of you, the alarm clock Brit. Why do you bother? I mean, if you look at the front page of The Sun today, how angry are we all? Migrant streets. Great piece of journalism. Julia Atherley, congrats. 83 asylum seekers moving into brand new £250,000 new builds. That's social housing, ladies and gentlemen. Not given to hard-working Brits. No. Given to people who shouldn't be in our country. That's the sort of stuff that needs sorting. Immigration, energy costs. Drill in the North Sea and do something about our energy costs, which are the highest in Western Europe. That's why our businesses are failing. Do something about the boats. Do something about that. Do something about the incredibly ridiculously large welfare benefits bill. So when Andy Burnham strode to the stage yesterday in Manchester, genuinely hand on heart, I thought this man's got a fantastic opportunity because he's got 400 MPs who owe him now He's got a great opportunity to do one of those things and destroy the right forever. Reform, restore the Tories. If he did one of those things, that's political genius. That's conviction. No. Andy Burnham said, and I quote, I want to rewire Britain. I'm going to run Greater Manchester, number 10 up north. I'm going to build some council houses. Don't disagree with that. Who are you going to give them to? I'm going to devolve more power to the regions. Right. Has he worked out what happened with the SNP or the Welsh Labour Party? That didn't go very well. He's going to impose public control over essential services like water, gas and transport. So we're talking, really, about state intervention. This is going back to the Kinnock playbook, right? Masses of social housing, yes. Technical this. Word salad. Nothing from Andy Burnham about stopping the boats, about the welfare benefits bill, about drilling, right? Drill, to make some money, because it's all there. No. It's all about how it looks good. This is him about number 10 up north. I'm just gonna read you something. This is number 10 up north. Nothing against Manchester, like Manchester. But how much is that going to cost in security to have 2 bases? Have a listen. This is an idea.
The job of number 10 north will be to make power flow into the Midlands, into the southwest, into the east of England, and yes, into London, as I said before, as much as into the northeast, Yorkshire and the Humber, and here in the northwest. It will be about offering new opportunities to extend devolution in Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland by taking power deeper down. The people of Dundee and Bangor feel just as distant from Holyrood and the Senedd as they do from Westminster. Number 10 North will be the nerve centre of a rewired Britain.
So, in essence, Andy Burnham wants to work from home, yeah? Sorry to be cynical, that's how I see it. I don't, you know, I was disappointed. I thought the guy would offer me more. Tim Stanley from The Telegraph, I mean, I sort of agree. Under the new number 10 North career, politics as we know it is over. Our Andy unveils his agenda for democratic renewal without consulting Parliament at a press conference that took absolutely no questions. And there's the thing. He refused to answer questions. He banned certain journalists straight away. I guess it's his right. I think if you've got a plan, you should be able to answer questions. So I've told you what I've done today. If you haven't, if you're just tuning in, this programme today is a 4-hour live press conference. You, my friends, can call me... You can call me, text me, and you can ask me anything, and I will give you an answer. We start with a very good morning to a man who lost the Labour whip under Starmer, will get it back under Andy Burnham. Good morning, Carl Turner.
Good morning, Jeremy.
How are you?
I'm all right, actually. Better for having Andy Burnham as the leader of the Labour Party in a few weeks from now.
We're going to have an argument this morning. We're going to have an argument, Carl. Listen, mate, Starmer, I think, proved it today because he's going to bring out his defence thing. And this is my legacy. No, you've halved what the defence chiefs have said they want, and you're giving us 6 papier-mâché warships. You've left the country in a disgraceful position. But I'm being practical because we're mates, right? Hear me out. I was disappointed yesterday. It was all words. Number 10 up north, they've grabbed hold of. Fine, don't care about that. The housing thing, yes. But where, and you've always been honest with me and I'm being honest with you, if you went in Makerfield, in your constituency where I live and most of the places in this country, and you said, name me 3 or 4 things that are at the top of your agenda, I bet you anything you've got, Carl, they'd say the boats, they'd say the bloated welfare benefits, they'd say we need to do something about the fact that our energy prices are through the roof, why don't we drill? They'd want a national inquiry into the rape gang horrors that nobody will do. I don't understand, in that pivotal moment, with political capital at its highest, and maybe you disagree with me, Andy Burnham didn't at least have a conversation about one of those 4 things, Carl.
Well, I think that's fair. It's true that he didn't have that to say, but he was putting a plan together yesterday which could speak to the country, and that people do want more power from where they live rather than in Westminster. And I think that's what he was talking about. This Manchesterism thing is a thing, we think, and we expect him to deliver on it. But look, he's not even the PM yet, and it's right to say that he's not made a speech in Parliament. I agree with that.
Yeah.
But he's not the leader of the Labour Party, unfortunately.
Do you think he should increase? Do you think he should recall the MPs in that he could be coronated by the 16th or 17th, and Parliament goes off for what, basically 6 weeks? do we not think that if we've got a new Prime Minister, he should at least appear in the Commons by having an extra day or something? Because this is a very... And listen, I'm a patriot. I want it to work. I don't think it will. That's not me being cynical. But don't you think a good thing to do would be to call all the MPs together, give his first address, and then everybody goes on holiday?
Well, I don't think it's a bad idea. I think it's fair to say that he ought to be addressing Parliament, but he can't address Parliament with big ideas until he's the PM, the leader of the Labour Party. And, you know, you can hardly criticise him for making a speech outside of Parliament before he's the leader. I think that's unfair, if I'm being honest. When he gets there, he will do. And we'll have to see what he does as PM. But I'm just enthusiastic that we've got rid of Starmer and we've got a guy who actually speaks common sense. That's all I'm hoping for. I think he might cut the mustard.
Do you? You do?
I do. I think he might cut the mustard. Look, he's been successful in Liverpool as a mayor.
Manchester.
Sorry, in Manchester as a mayor. But, you know, I think we've got to give him the opportunity as a country to do some good. I hope he does. I'm confident that he's capable. I just want to see what he's got to do as PM.
Is there any part of you that thinks that the... Don't take this the wrong way, because, of course, I'll give him a chance. Is there any part of you that thinks that the desperation which was felt by the country, certainly by the Parliamentary Labour Party, in fact, most of the world, I suspect, to get rid of Starmer, meant that this has been a bit of a rushed and botched operation? I mean, it can't be in... I mean, I know the Tories, and I was as critical about Truss and Sunak as I am about this. I have a real issue, right? I get your point that yesterday we're calling it word salad, but he can't be too detailed until he becomes Prime Minister. But what he intimated yesterday, Carl, was a seismic change from what Starmer's done, which means none of what he was doing, Great Britain, the Greater Manchester, Northern Number 10, all of that stuff, right? If it's so different from the manifesto and when he gives us details, how can he rule when he hasn't got a mandate, when he's changing the manifesto?
Well, that's the argument that's going to be made, isn't it? If he digresses too much from the manifesto that we stood on in 2024 and gained a majority on, there'll be strong arguments from the opposition, I would suspect. There were from us when we were in opposition, that there ought to be a general election. But we don't know that he's not planning to have a general election at some point earlier than 2029. He might well go to the country. I think he could do. If he thinks we're ahead in the opinion polls, he'll take the opportunity. That's what politicians do. You couldn't blame him. And don't forget, Jeremy, we're all a little bit cautious as politicians about the mistakes that Gordon Brown made.
Yeah.
He had a bounce in the opinion polls after Blair left. He ought to have gone then. He didn't. He bottled it. The truth is, we lost, or there was a coalition government with Cameron and the Lib Dems as a result of the fact that Brown didn't go when he ought to have gone. So I think Burnham might go early. I'm telling people, privately, my wife, I mean, and others, that prepare for a general election because it might be earlier than you think.
Now, I thought, this is really interesting, they always say a week in politics is long. It's like being married a week's long, isn't it? But there was a poll out on, say, Wednesday, I think, where he was 20 points in front of Farage and 20 points in front of Badenoch, and the Labour Party had a 6-point bounce, and David Maddox from The Independent said, I'm telling you now, you wait till the autumn, reform will be finished, Kemi is a good person, but that won't show. Andy Burnham, Labour will be in the lead and he'll call an election. After the speech yesterday, actually before the speech yesterday, his personal rating had dropped 6 points in one day. I'm just telling you, I'm being straight, we have different political views, but we do what we do. That is an absolute disgrace. That story, if people are tuning in, is the front page of the Sun newspaper today, Migrant Street. This is Stoke Heath in Shropshire, where 83 illegal asylum seekers are moving Carl Turner into brand new £250,000 houses. Now, I'm not putting this directly on Labour's doorstep. The Tories failed with this. But I would have thought that a would-be Prime Minister would have at least just scratched the surface and gone, I understand you in business are struggling with ridiculous energy costs, I will look at that. I understand the unfairness of a system that says, thank you for working and paying tax, but you know what, if you come here illegally, you're going to get a brand new house. Because Andy Burnham likes all things to all people. The concern is that in not mentioning that, energy, welfare, immigration, a lot of people, millions of people are going to go, it's just going to be much of the same in a T-shirt. That's what... And I'm not, you know, talk is talk. There are other stations, other views. But already this morning, I've got people who were prepared to listen going, well, what was in that? You're saying, and I get it, that he can't give away too much. If it had been me, I'd at least have touched upon that, because stories like this... I've had people in tears this morning. I've worked for 50 years, me and my wife, 50 hours a week. We can't afford to buy a house. How the hell is that fair? And that's social housing. And Andy Burnham yesterday said, we're going to build more social housing. So how many people this morning are thinking, what, he's going to build it and give it to illegal migrants? I'd have thought personally and politically it's a subject he could have talked about, Carl.
Well, he's got plenty of opportunity once he's leader of the Labour Party to address the issues that people are concerned about, one of which is migration, immigration, illegal immigration, and the asylum seekers who are living in hotels at the minute. We've got one in Hull. You can't book an hotel in my city. If you come into the city, you're struggling to get somewhere to stay for the evening because the hotels are full to busting with immigrants who arrived here in various ways. So the truth is that is a policy that we need to look at.
Do you think he'll be tough on immigration, Andy Burnham? Do you think he'll be tough on immigration?
Well, I think with Shabana Mahmood as the Home Secretary, we're already fairly tough. But I think that he will address the issues that people are concerned about, because we have to do, otherwise we're going to lose an election. And I don't think Burnham wants to do that. I think there's a bit of hope that we can address the things that people are really worried about, one of which, as you've rightly highlighted, is illegal migration to the UK.
One of the biggest fears of people that are listening to this is a man who has been systematically behind the ridiculous, in my opinion, maybe not yours, huge spend on net zero, which has put us even more billions behind the 8 ball and has actually resulted not in the drop of energy cost, absolutely the increase in many business closes, is Ed Miliband. And there are many rumours that he could be the Chancellor of the Exchequer. I mean, that for many people is also a massive thing. I speak to people all the time whose businesses have closed because of business rates, whose businesses have closed because of high energy costs, and they want their Prime Minister, be it Sunak or Johnson or Truss or Burnham or Starmer, to actually give the impression they're going to give them something. And listen, Andy Burnham is the next in a long line. The truth of the matter is, as Poppy Coburn said this morning, he's not going to have any more money than Starmer. And we do know that the Socialist doctrine, and you've got to be honest with me here, Carl, is you can say what you want at the end of the day, but the truth is you either cut costs to pay for extra things or you borrow more money, or in the old days, you print it. How's he going to afford to do all of these things that he says he's going to do? Is he going to raise taxes on Middle England, which is, with respect, historically what socialist governments do?
Well, I think there is an argument for him to address the issue of welfare benefit bill bursting at the seams. I think that the Labour Party was unprepared in Parliament to take that on board. But I think that's because of the leadership of the Labour Party was Keir Starmer. And frankly, he was incapable of persuading most of us of most things. I think Burnham's a different character. I think he'll take the PLP with him. I'm confident that we will address the issues that are concerning to people. You know, people who get up in the morning and go to work for a living. People who graft and at the end of the month have got very little left. That's the people that I want to be working hard to provide for. Why? Because these are the people who I'm there to represent. And I think Burnham understands that in a way that, frankly, frothy coffee drinking, Guardian reading lefty liberals from somewhere in London, Islington types, haven't got a clue about.
How do you respond to Tim Stanley in the Telegraph this morning, Carl? He says, under the new number 10 North Korea, politics as we know it is over. R. Andy unveils his agenda for democratic renewal without consulting Parliament at a press conference that took absolutely no questions.
Well, look, you know, he's criticised for not taking questions, but I think he's managing the media, look. You don't want to be getting embroiled in battles about do you think this and do you think that and when do you think Keir Starmer's got the policy on
But
this or that,
21,000 people in Makerfield voted for them, and there's 73 million in the UK. Don't they deserve, be it through Parliament, recalling Parliament, you've said you're open to that, do we not deserve to at least hear a bit more meat on the bone before the man gets on a B bus from Manchester and ends up as our Prime Minister? That's all I'm saying. I'm being serious.
I do. I think you're right. I think it's fair to be answering questions in Parliament, but he's not the PM yet. And he might not be.
You're a skilled man, you are.
It's unlikely that he's not going to be the PM. It's fairly foregone conclusion that he will be the Prime Minister. But other candidates could still stand if they can muster 81 votes.
Are you shocked at how this coup's been so successful?
Well, I'm relieved that it's happened because I think Starmer had to go, to be honest. But yeah, I think it's been a fairly successful coronation of Andy Burnham once he gets the crown. Yeah, I do.
Do you have any questions for me? My programme today is a 4-hour live press conference. I'm answering questions because Andy Burnham wouldn't. Have you got any questions at all?
I've not really got anything to ask, Jeremy, but it's very kind of you to invite me to have the opportunity.
Labour MPs won't answer questions, they won't ask questions. Carl Turner, we love having you on, my friend. Thank you. 720. Keith says, do you have any tattoos? Nope. And if not, what should your first be? I would never, ever have a tattoo. Can you do 10 press-ups, or is it a struggle at your age? I mean, weak arms, weak legs, but I do press-ups occasionally. Ask my wife. Do you use Monjero or Ozempic? I have never, ever done anything like that. I just don't eat. And who would play you in a movie? Oh, I don't know, Mr. Bean. Morning, Andy.
Morning, Jez. It's Andy from Hull. I've decided I'm not going to be driving my van today. I'm supposed to be going down to Reading from Hull, but I'm deciding to do it remotely from my kitchen table. So, yeah, so if you see a driverless van heading down the M1, don't worry, it's just me working from Mercedes Sprinter North. Yeah, so Burnham, get yourself to work, man. He needs to be in Westminster. If he's got any aspirations of being the Prime Minister of this country, he needs to be where it's all happening in Westminster instead of monkeying around up north. Get yourself down there, fella.
Thank you very much indeed. 721 0344 499 1000. You're waking up to the news that Andy Burnham, in his sort of pitch for the Labour leadership / being Prime Minister yesterday, talked about rewiring Britain stuck in a rut. He talked about relocating Downing Street part-time to Manchester, so that'll be 2 hubs. He talked about devolving more power to the regions, in brackets, look what happened with Scotland, close brackets. Well, Birmingham's 300 billion in debt. He talked about imposing public control over essential services like water and energy and transport, really harking back to pure socialism under Neil Kinnock, and look where that got us. Masses of people, millions of people this morning saying, well, where's the 3 things or even 4 things that we all care about, which is stopping the boats, which is dealing with a bloated benefits bill, because that's what you need to do, which is deciding on how you're going to deal with an energy crisis that means that everybody's in trouble, local businesses, small businesses, whatever, homes. Why don't you bloody well drill? And while you're at it, Burnham, why are you not talking to us about a national rape gang inquiry? But none of that, word salad. It's all very, very nice. Let's cross to, are we going live to Victoria Gardens in the morning sunshine? Very, very nice, man. James Cartledge, Shadow Defence Secretary. Morning, James. How are you?
Good morning. Very well, thank you.
That was waffle at its highest, wasn't it? But I mean, I literally, and I'm being completely serious, I thought at the beginning of the week, James, that if he had at least acknowledged that he'd do one of those 3 or 4 things I've just said to you, that would show a convicted politician who could understand what people are thinking and would blow a bit of a hole in the water of the right. Nothing, man, nothing of any substance whatsoever.
And as you say, Jeremy, didn't answer a single question. It's what I call coronation chicken. You know, this guy is expecting to get the crown without having to say what on earth he's going to do. I think the most important point you make is about the substance. You know, a complete lack of any kind of an agenda to actually solve our problems. You mentioned energy bills. You're totally right. I care passionately about welfare. I ran a business. You know, I hired people who wouldn't work more than 16 hours because of the crazy Gordon Brown tax credit era. We tried to change that in government. We brought in universal credit. It was quite successful, but we then had the pandemic. But fundamentally, where Britain is today, the #1 job for government is to cut welfare and get Britain working again. Then we can afford to do things like cut taxes, but above all, and I'm Shadow Defence Secretary, fund our armed forces properly.
Well, I'll talk about that, but yeah, I mean, I think so many people this morning are saying it's just 2.0 of Starmer, and actually people, I think, were quite disappointed, and it was all a bit... You're smiling, but to me it was absolutely appalling. And yeah, no questions. He banned Quentin Letts, for God's sake. Quentin's the nicest man in the world, the scriptwriter from that. Ridiculous. Let's talk about your brief, defence. I mean, I just want to see you. I'd love the camera to zoom in. Before we talk about this defence review that's being published today, am I right in saying that Keir Starmer, really, the fatal blow was delivered by the excellent John Healey, a nice man, his defence secretary, probably one of the most experienced and calm Labour frontbenchers, who resigned and, I quote, said, "You don't care about the defence of this country and the Treasury won't allow it." That's what happened, and Starmer, the cards began to fall. Yesterday, James, try not to squeak, he put it about that he'd like to be the Secretary-General of NATO. And I'm sat here thinking, what, you're going to go around Europe saying, sorry, could you spend a bit more money on armed forces? And I go, well, you didn't, you can do one. What, he's got some front, hasn't he?
Yeah, I heard that. I did think that was fairly extraordinary. And, you know, I am trying to keep a straight face. I think the key thing is, as you rightly say, it goes back to the first point. This is all linked together. You say, you know, Starmer 2.0. What we had was a complete failure to make the big decisions, the big calls on things like welfare. Because of that, you can't have big calls on things like defence.
No.
So, you know, you'll know this. I've been asking at defence questions for months. When's he going to publish a defence investment plan? I've got to be honest, I even started having nightmares that I'd be there in decades with a Zimmer frame saying, when are they going to publish the defence investment plan? So we're finally getting it, and what an anticlimax. What a waste of time. It's too little too late. There's almost no extra money, almost no extra money than the amount John Healey resigned from office for. And of course, you know, you've heard about all these drones they're talking about today in their press release. They won't come into service till 2030. So it's a pretty poor effort, and it's because they won't take those decisions you mentioned earlier, cutting welfare to get this country working again.
You're so right, James. So the defence investment plan, for people just tuning in, he's going to give 14.5 billion, only half of what the military say we need to be safe. 6 budget warships that cynics are saying will be made out of origami to replace destroyers from a new area of warfare, cut-price Navy drones. But as James, as you quite rightly say, none of this till 2032, by which time this will have done. I've said it to you before, I think the decisions taken about cutting from way back on defence were immensely short-sighted, and it's come back to bite us. But the truth is, and if it's not Andy Burnham or Kemi or whoever it is, right, somebody needs to say, as Thatcher did, you're going to have to take your medicine. And the medicine's going to have to be that we're going to have to flush out the feckless and the lazy who are scamming our benefit system. We're going to have to do something about people coming into this country getting a 250 grand house, because not only are people working and feeling let down, but we can't defend our own bloody country. It's not rocket science, is it?
Jeremy, I do agree. I mean, I always accept, because there's no point in me trying to pretend otherwise, every government, basically since the fall of the Berlin Wall, cut defence spending because they thought we had this peace dividend and we could spend it because we'd won the Cold War. We were wrong. You know, Putin invaded Ukraine. But what I can say is we stood up to him in government, we led the way in the world, and crucially, we learnt lessons from it. We were starting to do amazing things with drone warfare, but the lesson from that is you've got to move quickly. As you rightly said, these capabilities are not going to come in from 2032. In drone technology terms, that's decades. We've got to move much faster, but they can't move faster because they haven't got the money. The way they're paying for this is by moving it beyond the point where the Treasury feels it has to pay for it. It's so depressing and frustrating. And finally, yes, you're absolutely right. The real key to this is this: we've got to make the break from this increasing reliance on the state. We've got to cut spending, particularly on welfare, and we've got to get the economy moving. And so I ran a business. I know that feeling of exasperation from all the people watching your programme who, you know, do the right thing, small business owners, etc. It's incredibly stressful. I remember the stress when it was just me, and eventually we became a successful business. But boy, you know, you don't get any help from the taxman.
No.
You have all that red tape, and all Labour are doing is piling more of that on. That is not the agenda we need as a country. We need to get Britain working, and that's how we fund defence.
I couldn't agree more. And And you look at, I mean, I talk about unfairness, about stopping the boats, I talk about business rates and growth and all those things that just drag people down. I guess what I thought most of all yesterday was, here's a fantastic opportunity for a man who 400 MPs have had to go outside of the Parliamentary Labour Party to sort of bring in, like some sort of hero survivor. And he had a moment to say, no, listen, we're not going to borrow any more money. We're already skint. We're paying $12 billion a month on interest rates on loans we can't afford. The IMF will probably tell us to do something. We're going to have to make hard decisions, which, as your leader said yesterday, is what government is about, making hard decisions. And you get that with a leader who's prepared to take on people and say, I looked at Burnham yesterday, James, and I thought, you're another one that just wants to be popular the whole time. Doesn't work like that, mate. Doesn't work like that. It's hard graft, right?
Totally right. And the thing is, you know, I look at John Healey and his resignation. He didn't have the back of his Prime Minister. You know, the Prime Minister wasn't prepared to make the difficult decisions to give John Healey the money he needed. I feel a privilege because with Kemi, I know whatever her strengths and weaknesses, if she says to me, James, yep, we're going to we're going to restore the two-child benefit cap, and the money's going to go to defence, I know I'll get it. I know she'll stick to that. She's consistent, you know, and I think that's what the country needs. We made our mistakes in office, but you know, part of you know, changing as a party is admitting to that. But the key to this is we've got to prepare the country. If we want to be wealthier, if we want to be successful, we have got to back those who work hard, who set up businesses, and that means cutting taxes, cutting red tape, cutting energy bills, which won't be easy, but we can do it. And I agree with you fundamentally that I think the craziest policy of all, it's not in my area, the craziest one of all is not drilling in the North Sea. I cannot get over that. If we do things like that, sensible, common sense policies, Britain can be prosperous again.
You know, somebody said to me the other day before I let you go, a mate of mine, he said, so it's like having lots of debt and then in your garden there's treasure, right? Because you don't want to upset, you know, the friends of the earth, you don't dig it. But the people next door, Norway, they're digging it and we're buying it off them for... It doesn't make any sense, James. Any business head would say, there's a natural resource, we're borrowing too much money and raising people's tax. Let's just cash in on what we've got and get ourselves in the black.
And the only deal I can think of that's as bad as what you've just described is the Chagos deal, and guess who was behind that, of course?
Mate, listen...
Paying billions to rent back our land, we're buying the North Sea oil and gas from Norway, from the fields that we are denying ourselves new drilling rights. I mean, it is incredible. These are the sorts of decisions that Burnham's going to have to make, and on the basis of yesterday, I don't think we can have any confidence he's going to, but it was good to hear from him occasionally.
Could not agree more. James Cartledge, MP, Shadow Defence Secretary, thank you so much indeed, my friend. Always a pleasure. 7:30 Tuesday morning. This is JK. So yesterday, Andy Burnham refused to take questions. I've said that I will take any questions this morning. Treat this morning's show like a live press conference. You can ask me anything until 10 o'clock. 87222. Start your message with the word talk, or 0344 499 1000. Morning, Jez. Have you ever had work done on your mush? Barry Manilow has more facial movements than you. I've been very open about this. My teeth are plastic. My face has been frozen for 20 years. This is me looking shocked. There you go. Morning, Matt.
Morning, Jezza. Matt in Warrington, Loader Van. I listened to Andy Burnham yesterday. What utter drivel. Utter BS. So he's going to industrialise the nation. How is he going to industrialise the nation when we've got the highest energy bills than anywhere else? So they're not going to come here. He's going to get apprenticeships for young people. How are we going to get apprenticeships for young people and jobs for young people when we've got employment laws that are really draconian towards the employer? You know, he's going to build council houses. What, with Lego? He's an absolute daydreamer. I honestly, I thought John Lennon in the background was going to start singing Imagine All the People, and he's like with his little happy crowd of Manchester people, where he's going to start listening to Stone Roses because it's all going to happen in Manchester because Manchester's the top place. Yeah, Manchester looks is an awful place to go to at the moment. You go down there on a Saturday night, it's awful. It used to be one of the best places in the world. Anyway, great show.
You've got to be single-minded about your plan, and you've got to follow through and not back down. The geography helps countries like Australia, but also the UK. I mean, across Europe, you know, they look the other way, I think unintentionally, all those years ago. One regulation changes in a province in Germany, and all of a sudden you get a wave of mass migration. The thing about immigration is this: if you get it wrong, the consequences are generational.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. What is it? 25 to 8. We're live across the UK. Welcome to Breakfast on Talk, the home of common sense and the home of alarm clock Brits. And yesterday, Andy Burnham made his pitch to be the next Prime Minister and refused to answer questions. So today, I have said this is a 4-hour live press conference where you can ask me, Jeremy Kyle, anything you want. Text 87222 or call. I'll take questions from the team as well if you want to ask anything. Pay rises. I have a question for you. Is Gerard Bowen going to Villa? That's what I heard. Chris in Hertfordshire. Andy Goldstein mentioned this yesterday on our sister station, TalkSport. If Gerard Bowen goes to Aston Villa, I wish him the best. Have West Ham got any chance without him? Absolutely not. Jez, do you believe there'll be a general election? And will the right unite? I hope so, and I'm not sure. Jez, who irons your shirts? They are immaculate. Tom in Hull. Me. My mother taught me before she died, because obviously she's dead now. But yes, I iron all my shirts. And yes, that's just there. Are you going to tell your rubbish joke again about Burnham, Corbyn, etc. in the taxi? No, I'm not. Don't start on me. No, I'm not going to do that. Right, I'm not. Oh, shut up, you lot. Look at them laughing through. Are we having any questions from the team? When are we getting breakfast? I'll walk out at 8 o'clock, by the way. I haven't had my overnight oats, trying to be healthy. I'll all be into a double sausage and chips and beans early in the morning. Morning, Laura.
Morning, Jeremy. Laura in Wiltshire. I listened to the whole of Andy Burnham's speech on Talk yesterday while I was driving and found myself shouting at the radio, how are you going to do that? What does that actually mean? What about the real problems in this country? I couldn't believe the absolute vacuous platitudes and claptrap he was coming out with. No surprise to me, he's an ardent socialist and he is going to be appalling. All of his ideas are going to cost money and achieve absolutely diddly squat. Anyway, my question for you is, Jeremy, please will you get Christian to see whether you can get Andy Burnham on the show? I mean, if he really is a man of the people and he's brave enough to be King of the North, he should be able to face down Mr. Jeremy Kyle. Great show.
Completely agree. Well, completely agree. No, it's true. It'd be really interesting, wouldn't it? If Andy Burnham is a man of the people, he would come on a station that wouldn't predominantly agree with his policies to answer and get... We always give that opportunity. I want this station to have Conservative, Tory, Liberal Democrats, that's never happening, is it? And Labour. Carl Turner comes on regularly, Laura, so I do my best. Paul, Jezza, only one word to describe that speech yesterday. Mank. Paul on the hot and dry island of Rhodes. There we go. I have a question for you. What is your... Oh, God. Jez, I have a question for you. What is your guilty pleasure? Mine is the cocktail Old-Fashioned Eds, which is a fabulous taste sensation. What is my guilty pleasure? This is really embarrassing. A rom-com and a pot of Haagen-Dazs ice cream. Honestly, give me Pretty Woman and Haagen-Dazs ice cream and I'm like a kid. Didn't sound right, did it? Losing any attempt at sounding cool. Listen, we were talking about how Andy Burnham, you know, full of his sort of word salad platitudes, was... Oh, the wife's been on. OK. Oh, she's put OK. I don't know what that means. He was talking about, you know, how he was going to relocate and give more power. What he didn't talk about was, of course, the many things, welfare, energy, and migration that concerns so many of you, especially with that headline today in The Sun, which is an appalling story. McKinstry, 83 asylum seekers moving into 250 grand new builds. We say a very good morning to Robert Bates, Research Director at the Centre for Migration Control. Good morning, Robert.
Morning, Jeremy. How you doing?
Well, you just sort of, I'm going to say disappointed. Bobby Coburn said, just realistic, not a mention of any of the things that really resonate and worry and concern people in the UK, migration at the top of the list. That story today in The Sun that you can see on screen, just you respond to this. I mean, this is appalling. The messaging that this sends to hard-working Brits is just beyond me, mate, beyond me.
Yep, and it's completely on the shoulders of the Labour government and the last Conservative government. This is a ridiculous state of affairs where effectively the government is running out of viable accommodation because so many individuals have come across, so many individuals are still in hotels and HMOs and so forth, that they're having to now look at more and more ridiculous outlets to house these individuals, rather than simply saying, OK, we're going to invest a lot in detention facilities and start deporting those that have broken into our country. No, we're going to put them up in very expensive houses. We're going to put them in new build social housing as well, is another story that's come out in recent weeks. And I think when you look at what Burnham actually didn't talk about last week, yesterday, I think this is going to be his single biggest issue. And the fact that he's not even taking questions from the press, he's completely skirting around this, is incredibly concerning, because we know he doesn't have a plan to solve the migrant crisis. We know when he was in Manchester, he was coming up with all kinds of crazy ideas about small boats, some of them including giving asylum seekers the right to work unencumbered as soon as they arrive here, a huge pull factor, wanting to remove what's known as no recourse from public funds for migrant status in the UK, which would mean an individual who had been here for literally 2 seconds would have the ability to access social housing, universal credit and so forth. And then, of course, you've got on the legal side of things his plans to water down Shabana Mahmood's indefinite leave to remain reforms. This is a Prime Minister that is going to inflict on this country incredibly damaging migration policies, and the hope would be that it is ultimately his downfall. But how long can he go without a general election whilst inflicting that damage on the country?
There are so many questions, and it wasn't that I was shocked yesterday. I was shocked by the lack of depth. Other people said that was always going to be the case. Carl Turner, I try and balance things, just said, well, he's not the Prime Minister yet. I said, well, that's not the point, mate. I thought, and I'll repeat it all morning, that given the way he was, what did James Cartledge, Coronation Chicken, fantastic. Given the way that he was sort of flown in, sort of SAS style under the dark of night, and it was a brilliant coup. I would have thought that you'd read the room and you'd go, right, listen, I've got the MPs where I want them. I'm going to have to prove that leadership is about talking about difficult things. I'm going to have to tell them we're going to have to do something about this. Nothing. And so it's all very lovely and all wordy and, King of the North and all that. But those issues, as you quite rightly said, energy, for Christ's sake, they imagine he's going to make Ed Miliband, the Chancellor, a man who has taken us to the brink of bankruptcy to achieve what? Oh, by 2030, we'll be, what is it, the whole thing. I was massively disappointed, and you said something just then, how long have we got to go? The clamour for a general election will only grow. Do you know that in the space of 24 hours his approval rating went down 6 points? Literally. And that was before he'd given the speech. I bet when you go do it later in the week, people will go, well, it's much of the same. It's like Starmer 2.0 and a T-shirt. And I'm not being disrespectful to Andy Burnham. There was nothing there, Robert, nothing that made me think, yeah, he understands the mood of the country.
Well, he's almost been hoisted into this position for the same reason Keir Starmer took over from Rishi Sunak, was just people were sick of the guy that came before them and were desperate to take anything else. Of course, actually, the public have never had the chance to properly vote on whether they think this guy is up to the job. I mean, I think people are already probably going to be getting tired of his shtick of sort of reciting Smith's lyrics in the back of a taxi and then giggling to himself. I don't know how much road there is in that as an electoral strategy. People now recognise the state this country is in across the board, as you say, energy being one of the biggest issues, along with welfare, defence and migration in particular. He hasn't set forward any detailed plans as to how he is going to fix any of these problems. And this idea that he's going to be the Messiah really, really, frankly, falls down. This is an individual who has one motivation in politics, and that is his own aggrandisement. And unfortunately, there's going to be tens of millions of us who suffer as a result of this ego trip from a sixth form politician. I think, unfortunately, he probably will try and stave off a general election. I think politically, the way he's handled actually his coronation has meant it's more likely that the cause is going to increase. I think the idea of not having press conferences without any scrutiny just suggests, well, this really is a prime minister.
But I'm back there again, Robert, and you're an intelligent man. I don't care if your not you, I don't care if your politics is different from mine. Why has nobody got the balls or the foresight in Labour, now to Burnham, before to Starmer, to say, look, mate, listen, we've got our principles, right, but we've got to at least look like we're listening to the country, at least scratch the surface of those subjects. You are doing nothing to allay law and order, stabbings on the street. I could name everything. Nothing. Let's move to let's build some houses. That's what Starmer said. That's what readiness said. Let's build some houses. Let's move to the north. Let's be the circuit breaker. The truth is, and I sound like a broken record, and I'm much older than everybody listening and you. I know what happens when a socialist government gets in. They either print it, inflation goes through the roof, they borrow it, the interest rates are horrendous, or guess what? They basically, they offer too much. They raise taxes on Middle England, they've always done that, to pay for whatever they pay to the unions or whatever they decided. And sadly, at my age, I knew that 2 years ago when they were elected, but I lay that firmly at the Tories' door. Starmer was an absolute drip. Starmer had nothing about him. I don't think he was qualified for the job. Yesterday, I just found myself going, how long will it be before, you know, the darts thing, Keir Starmer's, I mean, how much before they call in for him to come back? I mean, it's frightening, mate. Absolutely frightening to me.
Well, I think Burnham's already had his own chant at the World Cup as well, it looks like. But, you know, I think there needs to be, and there wasn't really during the Makerfield by-election, a lot more scrutiny of what this individual in his gut stands for. You know, some of the stuff he was calling for whilst Mayor of Manchester, a universal basic income. Why was that never spoken about during the by-election? We all knew that this was effectively a by-election. It would give us, or hoist upon us, a new Prime Minister. Why was the media not looking through his track record? I think, unfortunately, now we have a Prime Minister who we know in his heart of hearts is a hard left socialist, but he's also more dangerously an individual who gets buffeted by the winds of whatever will make him popular. And we know that the Labour backbenchers are a beast of sort of crazy ideologies and temperament, who are going to be completely grabbing him by the cajoles to shift him even more leftward. And he just simply, because he's been elevated by being popular, hasn't got the ability to stand up to them. And this is the country that is going to suffer here now.
I could not agree more. It's all well and good to bring somebody in. They will expect him to go to the left. He can say everything now, I'll stay within the fiscal rules. His chief of staff, Louise Haigh, who was sacked from the cabinet because she's charged and convicted of fraud, she said over the weekend, more capital gains tax, we can relax the fiscal rules, we can borrow more, we can do more for all of the communities. Like everybody, you want to do more for the communities, but the point is this, you have to pay for it. And whether it's stopping the boats or dealing with the energy crisis or dealing with welfare, those are ways of making savings. But no, they won't do that. And yeah, I mean, I'd said it earlier. I've got a friend who said that Starmer wouldn't last 2 years, and he said to me, by Christmas, Burnham will be bang in trouble. The issue for England is, Britain, whatever you want to call it, Kemi Badenoch's doing a great job, I think, personally, but the Tory party is still toxic. Reform are dealing with certain things, I hear, at this moment. Farage is obviously a little bit quieter than usual. Restore sort of blew up and blew down again. That was always going to happen, I think. I could be wrong about that. The Liberal Democrats you don't hear from. And so you end up thinking to yourself, geez, could this fundamentally go on? Because like you, we just seem to be flitting from side to side, mate, without anybody having the conviction to go, yeah, I'm going to stop the boats. I'm going to stop that crazy net zero. Yeah, I'm going to organise a national rape gang inquiry. I am going to do what's right for Britain. No, nobody seems to have the courage to do it.
No, and I think, unfortunately, actually, the way just the state functions now, there is no real incentive in the immediate short term for individuals to start and train any of those processes. You think about, you mentioned the rape gangs there. The government was dragged kicking and screaming into setting up just a few local ones. We simply don't have the accountability mechanisms, and we now have a Prime Minister who's avoiding the only accountability mechanism that gives the people of this country some semblance of control over who's governing their lives, and that's a general election.
He won't even have to face Parliament until September, the beginning of September, because the Parliament is in recess for the summer. Starmer, I would insist he should be absolutely forced to recall Parliament for a day and address, as the new Prime Minister, if that's what happens, what the hell's going on to the people who we elected. I think that's a disgrace. Listen, we could talk all day, mate, but you're absolutely right. He doesn't seem to have talked about every one of the main issues, any of them, in fact, but that story on the front of the Sun, 83 migrant asylum seekers moving into brand new houses, is a real kick in the teeth, isn't it, for hard-working Brits?
It's so offensive. And we also, of course, found out yesterday that those that have been able to stay in the UK last year because of human rights rules will cost the UK $5 billion over their lifetime.
I can't do it. I just want to throw things at the wall. I genuinely, Robert, don't understand how anybody has the lack of intelligence to think. And I know people say to me, oh, Jez, but you go on every single morning. Yeah, because there are people that work to do the right thing, to bring up their kids, to save a bit for a holiday, who are really struggling with their bills, who are struggling with everything that life throws at them. And if politicians are so stupid as to not think that they will look at stories like that migrant story in the front of the Sun and be appalled, then they're missing the point, because people are genuinely angry, frustrated, and feel that they're being put at the back of the queue.
I don't think there's ever been a bigger disconnect in politics between actually the concerns, the ordinary concerns of the public, and actually what's going on in their lives and how they're feeling about things, and the political class who at this point just seem drunk on human rights vibes, on anything apart from pursuing the national interest. And I think we're reaching a point now where the country is very determined, actually, the next chance it gets to assert very, very clearly, no, we need to start putting our country first. We can't continue with the handouts to foreign nationals, whether it be those legally here on universal credit, or whether it be those chancellors that have come across the channel, 66% of whom are on universal credit at the moment, once they're given refugee status. I think actually that there's no politician currently in a position of power that is prepared to grip this issue, and there is a real sense of resentment out there, understandably so.
Could not agree more. Listen, you're one of my favourite guests, mate. I love having you on the show. Really appreciate it. Robert Bates, the Research Director for the Centre of Migration Control. 10 to 8. Morning, Tony.
Good morning, Jez. It's Tony from Worcester. Hope you're doing all right. I've got to be honest, fella. I think we've lost now. Mr. Burnham, he completely ignored everything that the average Brit's worried about. Banging on about devolution. That's just going to convolute any problems and issues. Trying to get an answer or sort anything's going to be like trying to nail jelly to a wall. And it's just going to cost us an incredible amount of money.
There's a speed camera ahead.
I don't know what else to say.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, my friends. 7 minutes to 8. We're live across the UK. So much great coverage in the Sun newspaper today. Firstly, about that migrant hotel story on the front page. 83 illegal migrants living in brand new £250,000 homes. New builds given social housing. And what did Burnham say yesterday? It's all about new houses. Who are you going to give them to? Great coverage by Jack Elson about everything to do with this story. But I want to just quickly speak to the legend that is Leo McKinstry. McKinstry, who is, of course, a journalist and historian, written a great piece in the Sun today. Burnham's just a peddler of illusions. Look at this. Who wants to turn the clock back to the 70s. Leo, good morning.
Good morning, Jeremy. Thanks for that kind word.
It's an extraordinary fact, actually, I mean, I said it earlier. I don't know what I expected, but there was absolutely no detail at all, was there, Leo?
Absolutely not. As I said, he's a peddler of illusions, and the illusion is everything is going to be fine when he takes office, and he's going to have a flourishing high street in every town and a good for growth in every neighbourhood. And how is he going to achieve this? His big secret magic ingredient is decentralisation. This utterly credulous faith in the effort and the efficiency of the public sector and of local government that they're going to suddenly turn around Britain. They'll turn back Britain to the 1970s. Because
I mean, I completely agree. I was going to say, when talking about devolving, have a look at the SNP and what a terrible job they did in Scotland. Look at Welsh Labour. Look at how many of these mayors and their councils are heavily in debt and not achieving. I was really disappointed with how fluffy it was, because just quickly, and it's a great column, please do read it on page 12. I mean, they all gush and, like your article says, oh, here he is. But the truth is, he didn't talk about the things this country needs to deal with, Leo, which is illegal immigrants, the energy prices, everything, right?
It couldn't agree more. And what does devolution really mean in practice? It means more tiers of bureaucrats, more tiers of politicians, more regional taxes. I mean, he talks about one of his great theories is to devolve some income tax raising powers to regional or local assemblies or to mayors. Think of that in the hands of some of the people on the left in the Green Party. I mean, we had the experience in Britain of Ken Livingstone and Derek Hatton in the 1980s.
Yeah.
They had tremendous power. And look what they did to Liverpool and London. And Burnham now wants a repeat of that in the name of devolution.
I am so with you, Leo, and the line isn't great, mate, but I just wanted to say it's not your fault. So great article. Please, peeps, read it. Page 12 today. Burnham's just a peddler of illusions who wants to turn the clock back to the 70s. Leo, at the Sun, like most of us here, understanding what Jack Elson, understanding what the British people want. They want an answer to immigration. They want an answer to a bloated welfare bill budget. They want an answer to why we haven't done anything about the rape gangs. They want answers to law and order, and all we got was we're moving to the north. We're going to do a circuit breaker. How, man? Carl Turner said at the top of this hour he can't say too much until he's Prime Minister. Well, he's a shoe-in to be Prime Minister. I'll tell you one thing, Andy Burnham, if you're listening, which you won't be. The fact of the matter is the British people, the silent majority, I keep saying, have woken up, mate. You are going to have to fill in the gaps, because if you don't, you are going to end up, quite simply, in the same position as the nasal knight who has been consigned to history, because the same will happen to you. Dan Hodges next on Talk Breakfast.
Britain has in some respects been the world's most successful country. It's given us the world's common language, the mother of parliaments, the Industrial Revolution, the emancipation of minorities, and yet I think there has been this besetting spirit of defeatism and declinism. People like Margaret Thatcher and Tony Blair were exceptions to this. Just contrast, within 48 hours of the invasion of the Falklands, the Royal Navy could assemble some 40 ships to sail to the South Atlantic. Now it takes 2 weeks to deploy a single destroyer to Cyprus.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
I've got some breaking news here. The Crowborough Army Training Camp could hold male asylum seekers all the way until 2030 after the Home Office.
Today, another taxpayer, or even worse, it's the money from our future.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back or welcome along. Just gone 8 o'clock on Tuesday the 30th of June. The sun is out, the sky is blue, and Andy Burnham talked a lot of sense. I'm joking. 0344 499 1000, text to 87222. You're waking up to the news that our would-be Prime Minister has promised to rewire Britain that is stuck in a rut. No detail, but he's going to relocate Number 10 to Manchester. He's announced the largest council house building programme since the Second World War. Right. They're going to be social housings. OK. He's going to give more power to the regions. Open brackets, look at the SNP and what that did to Scotland, close brackets. And he's going to impose state control over essential services like water, energy and transport. So this is state intervention, masses of social housing and a focus on technical education. I would say this to Andy Burnham and all Labour supporters if they're only listening. Why are you not talking about stopping the boats? Why are you not talking about ending ridiculous, crazy net zero, which sends us to have the worst energy bills in the Western world? So businesses and people are creaking underneath the pressure of those bills. Why? Why have you not announced a rape gang inquiry? All the things that people in this country, and most of all, Mr. Burnham, why don't you slash the benefits bill that now exceeds what we get in tax from people who work and do something about improving this country? Because you won't, will you? All you'll do is tax Middle England to pay for your socialist doctrine. And I wanted to give the bloke a chance, but it was pathetically inadequate. Steve, good morning. Steve.
Morning, Jeremy. Steve from Bassinlaw on my way to work again. So Andy Burnham wants to stick a Number 10 up in the north. What does that mean? I'll tell you what it's going to mean. Duplication, doubling the size of government. Half up north, half down south. Or should I say, another one up north. What does that mean in the local communities and the local authorities? Increased council workers. What does that mean? More pressure on the public purse. What does that mean? Oh no, the poor dear private sector and taxpayers got to pay for it. What an absolute idiot.
0344 499 1000. Your response this morning in there is amazing. The abuses of the welfare is going to be our downfall. Surely, says Serena, scrapping welfare altogether might be the solution. No. The benefit system was one of the most proud things I felt as a nation. To set up a system that said, and I quote, we will help people who can't help themselves. But peeps, unless we have a completely honest appraisal of what's going on here. Front page of The Sun. 83 migrants are now being given 250 grand new bills in Stoke Heath in Shropshire, right? You try explaining that to hard-working Brits this morning who are grafting. That doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense where, I'm afraid, people won't like this, hundreds of thousands of people claiming benefits are gaming the system. No, I don't want to change it. I don't want to end it. I want to make sure the people that deserve it, right, deserve it, get more. And the only way you're going to do that, it's like the migration thing, is have a conviction politician who's got the balls to stand up and say, it might not be popular, but I am doing that. Let's start this hour with, I love this man. We can agree to disagree on several things, but he's a legendary journalist. From the Mail, Dan Hodges, good morning, sir.
Morning.
Do you want to ask me a question as a journalist?
I don't, that's fine. That's fine. You ask me. You ask me. Because
I'm slightly... Well, I'm going to... There's so much I want to ask you. There's so much. And I know you've always been straight. Did you not think that yesterday proved to be a crushing disappointment in terms of detail, in terms of appearing to understand what the people of this country are literally sick to the back teeth of?
No, I don't. But for two reasons. Firstly, I wasn't expecting a huge amount of detail yesterday for a number of reasons. Andy Burnham isn't Prime Minister yet, so he's going to wait a bit until he starts to actually properly set out his stall. I think last time I was on, as I said, you know, one of the problems is Andy Burnham and his team thought they would probably have until September before before the handover, and obviously Keir Starmer decided to bugger off in the next couple of weeks, so they're still trying to come to terms with that. But no, I don't. And on the fundamental thing is because I think what he was touching on just kind of goes to the heart of what I think one of the big problems is in the country. In fact, the fundamental problem in the country is, and you and I have talked about this in various forms, and you talk about it every day on your programme in various forms, which, to put it quite simplistically, which is a perception that all the power and all the influence and all the decisions are not just taken from Westminster, but or within Westminster, but taken from people who do not have a perspective that extends beyond Westminster. And I mean, I get it a lot. I mean, I get it every day. I'm getting told by people, get out of your Westminster bubble, get out of London, get out of the M25, go and see how the rest of Britain actually lives. And I think, you know, the stuff you were talking about, concerns about migration, concerns about welfare, you know, concerns about various issues. I think the fact that those concerns haven't been addressed is part of this phenomenon.
But wouldn't you just have touched upon that? I'm not talking about concrete detail. I'm talking about the window dressing that we're talking about. No, I would have thought that you would have said, I understand your concerns about immigration, and I will be outlining that further down. I didn't even mention it, mate.
But the practical reality is, as soon as he does that, then people like you and me turn around and says, oh, yeah, well, he talked about immigration, but he didn't say what he was going to do about it. So he basically stuck to literally just the thing that is going to be the broad overarching theme.
As a journalist, how did you feel that he wouldn't allow questions?
Oh, there's no excuse for that. No, there's no excuse for that, and there's no benefit from that. I mean, especially for Andy Burnham, who is, you know, the thing we're told about Andy Burnham is he's a great communicator, and he, I mean, in my view, compared to Keir Starmer, he is a good communicator.
Look, this was a yoghurt I've just eaten. That would have better communication skills than Keir Starmer, to be fair, wouldn't it? But you're right. That's why it surprised me, because he's quite good at that sort of stuff. And I thought, you know, I'm not just picking holes in the bloke. I'm a patriot. I want it to be better than it has been. But I did think, you know, banning Quentin Letts and making a big thing about not answering questions is ludicrous.
Well, no one should ever ban Quentin. I mean, Quentin.
How can you ban Quentin? I mean, absolutely. It's ridiculous. To me, that was an own goal. I'll take your point about not wanting to give away too much at this time, but I don't know. I mean, there's obviously cynicism. People will say, I mean, listen to this, Mark in Selby. Andy knows what he's doing. He will borrow and borrow some more, thus forcing the government to go cap in hand to the IMF. They will not make the cuts to benefits that they need to make to pay for the things like defence. Talking of Starmer, today, actually, we're not going to have many more chances for this, so I'm going to have to do this very slowly with a smile on my face, Dan Hodges. What was your reaction to yesterday when a man who was ultimately forced from office because his defence secretary said, I'm off because you don't even want to defend the United Kingdom, put it about certain people and certain media outlets that he'd like to be Secretary-General of NATO. I nearly fell off my bloody chair yesterday morning.
Well, I haven't got any problem with Keir Starmer being Secretary General of NATO if he wants. But as you said, I mean, his record on defence and international affairs is somewhat checkered. Despite, I mean, the point is what that's about. It's about part of the whole thing with Keir Starmer, which is he's now trying to sort of build some sort of legacy. And he's obviously had this narrative, which is, he's very good on, he's good on the international stage. He's good on things like defence. Now, obviously, that's all been exposed, but he hasn't realised that. I mean, today, I think the bizarre thing today, we've got him announcing a defence spending review. Now, the point is, again, we talked about this last week. Keir Starmer announced last week he's resigning. This is a defence review that is going to have implications moving forward. I think in your headlines we were talking about things, sort of 2034, 2035.
14.5 billion for people just tuning in.
Exactly, and the reality is it's nothing to do with Keir Starmer now.
No.
From the moment he said, I'm off in 2 or 3 weeks, these big decisions were no longer his to take. And what we're seeing today, I may upset some people with this analogy, but he's basically doing a Ben Stokes. He's basically going out and opening the batting. He's basically announcing, it's the equivalent of announcing he's resigning halfway through the test match. It's about Keir Starmer. It's about him. It's a kind of look at me thing.
But do you know what sums it up for me? You've said that, but hear me out. What sums up his entire premiership to me and the inability to even understand the basics of any comms is this. He wants to jump in front of Burnham and somehow create a legacy that will never happen. But he does it with something that is only 50% of what the armed forces, the military chiefs, have asked for. Somebody said this morning, you're going to replace traditional warships with 6 origami-made ones. But that's just words. But the truth is, he's that delusional that he thinks that people are going to go, and the final act in his premiership was to give 14.5 billion to defence, which is half of what we bloody well need. I completely agree with you. My question would be, when Burnham gets into number 10, can he tear this up, or is it then ratified and laid down?
No, I think he'll be Prime Minister. He'll have the scope to do whatever he wants. I think there are obviously huge, political. There's a huge political problem for Andy Burnham in that, as we're seeing with the narrative today, is it's not enough money. I mean, I think, I think again, it's classic Keir Starmer. Why is Keir Starmer doing this? As I said, 2 reasons: one, to try and cement his legacy, and secondly, to try and screw over Andy Burnham.
Yep.
Now, if he wants to do that, the way he does it is he stands up today and he announces, I'm going to spend. I can today announce we're increasing we will increase defence spending by exactly the amount the armed forces.
That is what I'm saying, and you and I are not the most intelligent men.
And that puts Andy Burnham in a political.
If I wanted,
Keir Starmer does not have, even at the end, the political nous to even be able to do that.
If I wanted to screw Andy Burnham, who'd taken my job, right, and I knew that the armed forces wanted 28 billion, right, you idiot, Starmer, I'd go, do you know what? I'm going to give
30 billion.
I'm going to give you 48 million because I know I'm not going to be here, and that who's taken my job can clear up the mess. But he's so stupid, Starmer. He's given them half and thinks that's a legacy. That's what I mean, man. It's unbelievable, isn't it?
That's why he's going.
Are you telling me then, just bringing it back, that you don't believe that Burnham made a mistake in not mentioning immigration or welfare?
No, I don't. I mean, that's not. He doesn't want. He's obviously, in my view, going to need to get to grips with immigration, and he's obviously, in my view, going to need to get to grips with welfare. Those are 2 of the political realities that he inherits, and my understanding is he understands that. But these are obviously 2 of the most sensitive issues politically, and the biggest issues politically.
Yeah.
Now, remember again what we saw with Keir Starmer. Again, and I think this was kind of the beginning of the end for Keir Starmer. He did this huge announcement on immigration, did this big speech, We then found out he hadn't even bothered to read the speech, and he didn't really agree in the policy, and the whole thing blew up in his face, and he never actually really recovered from that. As I said, in terms of the really big issues, immigration, welfare, the economy, Andy Burnham is not suddenly going to rush out this week or next week and say, this is my big plan for immigration or my big plan for welfare or my big plan for the economy. He's not going to stand up and say anything until he's got what he thinks is a proper plan for dealing with this. Now, if whatever he comes up with ultimately, it may be a good plan, it may be a bad plan. But the one thing for sure is you and I can bang on until the cows come home. Andy Burnham is not going to suddenly rush out and start talking about his immigration policy and his welfare policy until he's got his feet under the desk of Downing Street or one of his 2 Downing Streets.
Let me ask you a question. Do you not think that approach, I don't disagree with you, and we're doing our job, but I do feel this very strongly, that will further fuel already the desire that many people, millions of people have, that this is an unfair coronation chicken, somebody said this morning, can't remember who, and that there needs to be an election. Now, I know you're going to tell me, and I agree, there won't be a general election, but this bloke, I want to know whether this man understands that the British people, the people you write for, the people we broadcast to, the silent majority, have found their voice. Because I think if you look at May and May Truss and Sunak and now this, I think the British people are very cynical, quite rightly cynical about what's going on politically. And I think that Andy Burnham might feel that he's going to have a honeymoon period. But I mean, did you see that poll? 6 points down in personal approval rating in the last 3 days. That's before the speech. That happens, right? But I do think he's going to have to hit the ground running, or I think the tide will turn really quickly.
Well, he's certainly going to have. I mean, he's certainly going to have to deliver. I mean, that's the. That is.
Do you think he can? Do you think he can, Dan?
Yes, I think he can. But then I was asked the same question about Liz Truss, and I said I thought she could deliver as well. So I wouldn't really sort of take mine. No, I mean the fundamental. What I do think is. There is a lot of, and I get it, there's a lot of negativity, a lot of people saying he won't be able to do this. I mean, as you say, your listeners are saying he's going to do this on welfare. The reality is we don't know. The reality is we don't know. No. Andy Burnham could be a complete disaster as Prime Minister, or he could actually, I mean, I think in the short term, I mean, the one thing I do think about the speech yesterday, forget the detail, I don't think lots of people were passing the detail. I think what most people who will have looked at the speech yesterday saw a guy who was standing up, who looked a bit different, who sounded a bit different, and I think they're going to give him. I think they're going to give him a hearing. Now, what he says to them, if what he says isn't what they want to hear, then the whole thing's going to unravel very, very quickly.
Yeah.
In terms of what you were saying about the polls, though, I would be surprised if he doesn't get a bit of a bounce. And actually,
of course he will.
What you're talking about in terms of his personal ratings, but if you look at what's happening in the national polls, there's a very clear trend, which is Labour are now starting to tick up a fair few points. The Tories actually are starting to pick up a fair few points. Reform are starting to go backwards. And I think one of the political stories that we'll see relatively shortly is, I think, and I've talked about this, I think we need to reach a crossover point at some point, fairly shortly, where Reform are no longer in the lead. And I think that is going to have an impact on our political debate that Andy Burnham and Kemi Badenoch actually are potentially going to be able to benefit from. But look, the fundamental reality is if Andy Burnham comes in and does a Keir Starmer, right? If Andy Burnham comes in and does a Keir Starmer or does a Liz Truss, or even actually does a Rishi Sunak and doesn't really
move the dial,
then, as I say, it's going to unravel very, very, very quickly. But I do think he's going to get a chance, and he's going to get a hearing initially.
Final question, just with a smile on your face, come on. Do you think that his idea of working from home, how do you think that's going to sit with the taxpayer? It's going to cost millions, isn't it, to secure a number 10 in Manchester?
Yeah, but again, it ties in with what I was saying. I think people understand there has to be change and there has to be a shift of power from outside of Westminster.
Oh, I'm all for getting out of the Westminster bubble and the M25. I get that. Yeah, I get that.
And we've how many times have we heard this from all sorts of politicians? Here you've got a guy, Andy Burnham is basically saying, look, I'm going to put my money where my mouth is. I'm actually literally going to go and physically work outside London. And when I'm working outside...
but the point is, Dan, he's not putting his money where the mouth is. He's putting the taxpayers' money out, isn't he?
But any prime minister has a private home, and that private home has to be secure.
Yeah.
In terms of the sort of the entire sort of public budget, it's going to be a relatively small amount of money. And as I said, I said it this morning. The hysteria in some quarters about the idea that the guy said, look, I'm the Prime Minister of Britain. I'm not just the Prime Minister of London. I'm going to spend maybe a couple of days a week outside of London, and I'm actually going to do it properly. I'm going to be working. And when I'm doing that, I'm going to stay living in my family home. I'm not going to be chauffeured down to Chequers. I'm not going to be chauffeured back to Downing Street. I don't actually see a big problem with that.
No, listen, Will. I'll tell you one thing, though, mate. It'll keep our jobs going for a while. It's going to be interesting to see it unfold, isn't it?
Certainly will.
Really appreciate you being on as ever, Dan. Thank you. Excellent stuff in the Mail. The man who kicked off the Starmer thing. And now we'll turn our attentions to Andy Burnham. 8:22, stop. Oliver, William, Robin, Carl is in the car, getting ready for school, OK? Getting ready for Sports Day next week, of which Daddy here will be taking part in the Daddy's race. Rissy, though. Rissy's got a hurting leg. She's been limping a little bit. I hope you're OK, sweetheart. I'm going to be training for the Daddy's race. I'm going to be here. It's the egg and spoon. No, it's not the egg and spoon race. It's the same race as last year when I beat the old bloke and he ended up in hospital. I didn't beat it. That didn't sound right. I didn't beat him and he ended up in... I beat him at a race and he ended up... Oh, for God's sake. Morning, Paula.
Morning, Jeremy. I'm so frustrated by this whole narrative around Andy Burnham, the King of the North. Nobody in the North has given him that name, and this whole Manchesterism thing. Manchesterism. Has anybody asked the people on the ground in Manchester what Manchesterism has done for them? Because I don't think it's done anything. Oh, yeah, Manchester looks like it's booming for the foreign investors and the high-rises that are springing up around the city that have been sold off to Hong Kong billionaires. Oh, yeah, looks booming for investment companies wanting to, deposit some money. But for the people on the ground, nothing's changed apart from they can get a bus a bit easier.
We've got some breaking news that has just come in. TalkSport have announced a brand new partnership in a developing story. We hear they've created So Good Lager right in time for football's big summer. Just in, we're hearing that So Good Lager will be pouring pints across all O'Neill's pubs and some of the best sports pubs across the UK. With the big kickoff just around the corner, you can find out where to get your hands on a fresh pint of So Good Lager at talksport.com/lager.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, 8:25. Thank you to Dan Hodges. So much to talk about this morning. But we did say that because Andy Burnham refused to answer any questions yesterday from any journalist, which every journalist thinks is an outrage, that we actually said to you this morning, you can ask me. This is a 4-hour live press conference where you can ask me, Jeremy Kyle, anything you want. Thank you so much indeed for the hundreds of examples. 87222. Start your message with the word talk, or you can phone in 0344 499 1000. Right, here we go. If you weren't Jeremy Kyle, would you... Oh, Jesus. Would you have gone on the Jeremy Kyle show with your ex-wife? Which one? And absolutely bloody not, because I don't speak to her. What's the funniest rumour you've heard about yourself? Oh, yeah, I got rung up once and asked if I was dead by a journalist, and I thought to myself, that's a bit weird. No, it's true. Has your family banned you from saying one phrase or story? Whose name is on the wall? I don't know, I can't. Get off my step. I'm not allowed to say anything like that. The one thing you're hopeless at, too many to list. My wife would tell you I can't change a plug, I can't... We have this great thing in our house on Christmas morning. She'll be putting toys together and batteries, and I'll be watering the flowers. Morning, Tommy. Has anyone ever confused you for another celebrity? The guy on Radio 1 that's no longer with us, Mike Smith, wasn't it, who did The Breakfast Show years ago, and also Keith Chegwin. Cheggers Place Spot. What's the strangest place you've been asked for a selfie? In the toilet of a motorway service station. Went to get a muffin on the way back from filming one day, Warwick. And 40 people came into the men's toilet and said, Jess, can we have a selfie? Whilst I was attempting to have a wee. Who would win in an argument, you or your partner? What sort of question is that? Any man will answer the same way. The wife. What's your most embarrassing habit that nobody sees on TV? I don't know about that. Oh, I don't know about habit, but you'll notice that whenever I was on television, they never filmed down, because you did a little ball patch on my head. They always filmed up, which made me look taller. Very short. At my request, yeah. What's the worst fashion trend you've ever followed? I don't know, but when we were kids and flares were in, we used to be really proud that we could stand and the trousers were over the front of the shoes. That was embarrassing. What's your signature dish? My face. No, I'm joking. What's my signature dish? That's difficult. No, I can't cook anything. What are you talking about? I don't know what I don't know the answer to that. I like everything and nothing. I don't like couscous. It's like rabbit droppings. 0344 499 1000. Text to 87222. It's Call Kyle. It's not Call Kyle. It's Jez's presser. We'll answer anything today. 87222. Neil on Andy Burnham. Good morning.
Morning, Jez. Neil from Basingstoke here. Right, here's my take on that little speech yesterday with Mr. Burnham. Well, it just shows he hasn't got any clue what the people are thinking and worried about. I mean, you know, if you had to write down your top 5 priorities of what's going wrong in the country at the moment and what needs sorting, more devolution and having a North 10 or whatever it was wouldn't have been on that list of anyone. But no, it's just going to cost us more money, cost us more money, the taxpayer, which, of course, it's Labour. They don't care about that. They just want to spend it. Anyway, good show. Catch you later. Bye.
He sounds inspiring, doesn't he? Let's go back also to the Tim Stanley article in The Telegraph this morning about Andy Burnham, which I think is the best quote of the day. Under the new number 10 North Korea, politics, my friend, as we know it, is over. Our Andy unveils his agenda for democratic renewal without consulting Parliament at a press conference that took absolutely no questions. 8:30, we're live across the UK. One of the main things about today is the final publication of the Defence Review article. We've been waiting for months from this for Starmer. We'll say a very good morning to retired British Army General Sir Simon Mail. Sir Simon, good morning.
Good morning to you, Jeremy.
This is my favourite man. I told you all, Sir Simon Mail, the man that tells it like it is. I'm just going to paint a little picture for you, Simon. So, you're so hopeless at your job, you get forced out by your own MPs 2 years into a 5-year tenure, and many people believe that the final straw was that your Defence Secretary left citing the barb, you don't want to defend the nation, and your Chancellor doesn't want to pay for it. Yesterday, you put it about that you'd quite like to be Secretary-General of NATO, which is in itself quite funny. But today, you decide to finally release your Defence Strategy Review paper, BS, whatever it is. And this is what you do. You think that you will cement your legacy by giving £14.5 million to the armed forces, where cynics are already saying you're going to replace warships with origami ones because it's only half of what you need. But I will get there. This sums up Keir Starmer in a heartbeat. Because presumably the only reason he's doing it today is to put one over on Andy Burnham. So my question to you, Sir Simon, any intelligent politician would have stood up and gone, I'm giving you 50 billion, because I ain't going to have to find the money. That'll be my legacy, and you, Andy Burnham, you two-faced whatever, you can pick up the bits. He's not even intelligent enough to do that.
It's a farce. If it was another government department or in the thick of it, or yes, minister, we'd all be sitting back roaring with laughter, because there'd be a Sir Humphrey figure, of course, pointing out the sheer ludicrous political optics of it, let alone the fact that we are a very serious issue dealing with the defence of the nation. And how Starmer thinks he's going to now go in front for his last great outing at the NATO summit and cut any figure, or allow even Britain to cut a figure, which it used to very much do as the leading member of NATO, as a great ally of the Americas, as a reassurer to our friends around the world, including the Commonwealth, the Gulf. It just sums the man up. He's utterly tone deaf about the realities of what his responsibilities are, and of course just the basic politics that you and people like Dan Hodge watch every day. But it is demoralising, because this will have bad effects on Britain's place in the world and the readiness of our armed forces. It's a travesty.
I mean, you and I have talked, Simon, about this in the past, and I lay the blame not entirely at Starmer's door. I lay it at successive Conservative governments, starting with Cameron, and many of them saw it as the obviously easy cut, and that's come back to bite us on the arse, for want of a better phrase. But Starmer has hollowed out the armed forces, as predecessors have done, with no real understanding. And, of course, presumably your number one, or at least one of the first two things that you should be considering as a Prime Minister, is to defend your people, to defend your country. And I can accuse him of leaving office having decimated and not defended the country. But I want to bring you on to our Andy. You might have seen the speech yesterday. Not a mention, strangely. Again, plenty of devolution, plenty of number 10 up north and mayors and all that, but I keep saying it, no mention of migration, no mention of net zero, and no mention of defence. None.
I simply don't see how anybody who's pitching for the top job can be taken seriously who won't address those national issues, Jeremy. It's really quite remarkable. And the problem the Labour Party always has is it looks on defence spending as spending, not investment. Yeah. And this is it. The DIP is aimed at research and development. It's aimed at British industry. It's aimed at innovation. It's aimed at, or it should be aimed, of course, at training our soldiers, at having a pipeline full of qualified submariners, qualified fighter pilots, qualified tank crews as well. It's part of building individual, collective national resilience. This is what the armed forces offers a government that's prepared to embrace it. It's a healthy part of the population. It suffers less mental issues than a lot of the contemporaries of the young men and women who come into the army. But they have just a sort of visceral dislike of spending on defence. And I'm afraid Andy Burnham really just dropped the ball from my point of view. Yeah. And I suspect any number of people who've got service, young men or women in the army, or been in the army, Navy, Air Force, of course, I use it as a... So all these things, Jeremy, that, may I say, you delightfully keep highlighting to your very wide listenership, we should keep hammering. This man wishes to represent our country on the world stage, to be the Prime Minister, has a primary responsibility, and as you say, he has a chance to introduce himself to the nation to an extent, and ducks both mentioning it and then being held even accountable by yourself. I gather Quentin Letts, the great sketch writer...
Banned! You can't ban Quentin. You can't ban Quentin. He's the nicest man in the world. But the point is, and this is... Simon, in the job that you did, Army General, you'll have had people around you. Part of the part of being a politician, in my opinion, is being able to sense, judge, have in your DNA that ability to feel the pulse of the nation. Now, I get that Dan Hodges and Carl Turner said, a bit of a cop-out, but I get it, he hasn't got the top job yet, doesn't want to put too much meat on the bone till he sat there and he knows what the reality is. But I would have, as an advisor, have been screaming in his ear to exactly, not with detail, but at least just touch upon it. You know, for example, the way Starmer and that vile human being Hermer have treated armed forces personnel with their Troubles Bill, the prosecution of ex-servicemen and women, and even worse, if it is possible to give immunity to the IRA, is beyond me in any way at all. I would, if I'd been Burnham, I'd say, so we're going to make changes. I understand the need to invest in defence. I'm going to be looking at that. I don't personally like the Troubles Bill because I respect our armed forces. I'll be looking at that. You don't have to give any concrete plans. You have to doff your cap to the fact. That's what people wanted yesterday, Simon. They wanted acknowledgement for the man who's going to be a coronation chicken, somebody said, that he actually had an eye or an ear to what the people want. That's all.
Yeah,
nothing else.
And he should have been putting his own potential future, as it were, backbenchers on notice that defence is one of his priorities.
Yeah.
Starmer came in with a stonking majority. And he had all the moral authority to start with. He utterly squandered it. He turned chicken instead of saying, pin your ears back. I'm the Prime Minister. I've given you the biggest landslide victory. We know it's shallow and very loveless, etc. But defence, I'm a serious Prime Minister, not just a very unserious Labour Party leader. And Burnham could have said exactly that. And thank you very much for raising the lawfare issue, Jeremy. The one hope I get is not only does Starmer go, but Hermer goes as well, because they're utterly complicit in the pursuit of very, very gallant servicemen and women who've been carrying out the duty on the government's behalf in very, very dangerous circumstances. And that alone he could regain if he could sack Hermer and just get rid of this new Northern Ireland bill that he and his party seem determined to push through.
I mean, I see it two ways. If he doesn't address the things that hard-working Brits want addressed, if he allows stuff like the Troubles Bill, the Northern Ireland Bill, honestly, the Chagos, if he just allows this stuff to continue, let me tell everybody, the Labour brand will be as toxic as the Tory brand for 10 or 15 years. Andy Burnham has a chance. I don't like the way he's been given a chance, but that's the way our constitution works. I think there should be a general election. That's not going to happen because, let's be honest, the Tories did it as well. I've never seen it as right, whatever political side. I think if you're going to deviate from a mandate, then you have to get a mandate. From a manifesto, you have to get a mandate. But that I will forever say that about our armed forces. I was brought up around the armed forces. I think it is an absolute, one of the worst and most... that and the rape gang inquiry, the fact that things like that continue to not happen is an absolute disgrace, and I'll forever keep saying that. Simon, we love having you on, my friend.
Thank you very much, Jeremy. Always a pleasure.
Always a pleasure, never a chore. Thank you so much indeed to Simon Mail, retired British Army General, 22 minutes to 9 o'clock, 0344 499 1000. Jez, what's your favourite sandwich? Oh, cheese. That's a bit boring, isn't it? I've got Crohn's. What do you want me to say? Ham and I don't know. Jez, a question. What's your relationship with Al Graham today, if you don't mind? Al Graham's great. I speak to him all the time. He's enjoying his retirement. He keeps travelling everywhere. Jez, does Burnham know it's your birthday next week and you'll be 61? I've sent him a message. He'll probably ignore it. Morning, Malcolm.
Morning, Jezzer. It's Malcolm down here in the West Country. I'm just waiting for Burnham to come down here. I've been checking out a couple of cow sheds down here that ain't got cows in anymore because the Labour government screwed the farmers. So they're free if he wants to come down here to the southwest, because he said he would, didn't he? Question for you, mate. What's your most favourite dairy cow? Anyway, cheers, mate. All the best from down here in the west. Cheers, bye.
What's my most favourite dairy cow? I don't know. What's the difference? I do know a joke by Jethro about that. He said, I had this American come down to Somerset, he said, I want to know which cows are which. It's a true story. And he said, this is the Cornishman said, he said, you see the brown and white one? He says, that's a Guernsey, because Guernsey cows are brown and white, and that's why we call it a Guernsey. The American went, oh, I see. And he said, you see the black and white one over there? He said, that's a Frisian, because Frisians are black and white. But he said, Mr. American, I know that you're slightly concerned about what the one in the middle is, the brown one. He said, yes, Sam. He said, well, that's a horse, you American idiot. Morning, talk breakfast.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to Julia at 10, Ian at 1, Kev O'Sullivan with Drive from 4. Good morning, Pete.
Good morning, Jezza. Seems to me like Andy Vermin is making too many plans for himself rather than too many plans for the country. Moving the MP's office and the Prime Minister's office up the north? Why? What's wrong with London? Well, we all know how bad London is under Mayor Khan, don't we? You know, has it got something to do with that? Do they not like each other? Could be all sorts of reasons, could there? But whatever reason it is, it ain't going to be good for us. Yeah, Andy Vermin. Do you know what the case he's going to do with his decisions he's making now? It'll be Burnham, his bridges at both ends, mate. Already. Burnham, his bridges at both ends.
I love my listeners. I love them so much. 18 minutes to 9 o'clock. Andy Burnham is the centre of most of what people want to talk about today. That speech yesterday where he... Well, a lot of people say it's word salad. I mean, he talked about moving number 10 to Manchester. He talked about more devolution, what happened in Wales and Scotland. I just add to that as a caveat. He talked about building more houses. Didn't Rayner and Starmer say that? Basically, state intervention, masses of new social housing. Talking of which, social housing, be careful what you wish for. Front page of the Sun today. Migrant Street, 83 asylum seekers moving into 250 grand new build, so you can break in illegally and get a brand new damn house. I wonder what he's going to do. But, and I keep saying this, Mr. Burnham, no mention of sorting out the boats, no mention of dealing with the bloated welfare benefits bill, no details about dealing with our energy prices, the most expensive in Western Europe because of stupid net zero. None of that. And you think people are going to let that go by? I don't. As Tim Stanley from The Telegraph wrote, under the new number 10 North Korea, politics as we know it is over. Our Andy unveils his agenda for democratic renewal without consulting Parliament at a press conference that took absolutely no questions, which, as a bit of fun, my friends, has led me to say today's programme is a 4-hour live press conference where you can ask me, Jeremy Kyle, anything. I have a fear that my next guest might have a question. We say good morning to the utterly delightful First Lady of Reform UK, Runcorn and Hillsborough MP, Sarah Pootchin.
Good morning, Jeremy.
Hello, God. I got a feeling you've got that smile on your face. What are you going to ask me?
Well, shall we save that for the end?
Oh, OK, fair enough. You can do it at the beginning or the end, I don't mind. Sarah, how dare you have a flag there? You'll be arrested. How utterly far right of you in your office. Let's try and be constructive. I mean, I'll be constructive here. I was massively disappointed, almost gobsmacked, by the lack of detail by Andy Burnham yesterday. Others have said to me, no, of course it was going to be like that. Because I would have thought that anybody with any political nous would have at least touched or scratched the surface, not given detail, but said, I hear you about the Troubles Bill, I hear you about immigration, I hear you about the welfare bill, I hear you about the grooming. Nothing, Sarah, in any detail told me about the things that I know from doing this every day really concern people in the UK.
But I think the whole thing was a bit chilling yesterday because he came across all very matey and friendly and going on about his black T-shirts and Manchester and how much he missed it. Well, it sounded so fake to me. And what Andy Burnham is socialism on steroids. So Andy Burnham is all about state control. And the fact that he wouldn't even allow certain members of the press in yesterday, and let alone any questions, is an example of state control. It's about clamping down on free speech. He didn't want to be asked about his policy on immigration or his policy on energy or his policy on defence or whatever else it wanted to, you know, the press would naturally want to ask the future Prime Minister about. He is about clamping down on free speech. And when I say chilling, nobody has pointed that out. He is about state control. He is about socialism at its worst.
Now, Carl Turner and Dan Hodges, we have to give all sides, said, and I quote, that you can't talk about things in detail until, wait for it, until you have been elected. But to me, if you've got your finger on the pulse of what the British public are concerned about, I would have said, listen, I understand you're concerned about immigration, and I will be looking at these things, but it would be unprofessional of me right now to say, here's the answer, because I don't have the facts. But I hear you. I hear that the Troubles Bill is a devastating blow to so many veterans of this country. I'm going to throw it out. I would have been saying 83 migrants moving into 250 grand new builds. We have to do something about it. This, by the way, Sarah Pootchin, the story that's up, is social housing. And didn't he admit he wanted more social housing? So is Andy Burnham going to put more migrants in £250,000 new builds? Those are the questions people would have asked. The fact, you're quite right, that he didn't want to do it, doesn't, to me, set out a very good stall.
And of course, we know, don't we, that Andy Burnham is all about open borders and welcoming illegal asylum seekers in. But look, on the point of his building council houses, what he hasn't said, has he, is that the right to buy council houses is now being made much more difficult by this Labour government because the time that you have to live in the house before you're able to buy it is now being increased, I think, to 10 years. So the point is that, yes, he wants to build social housing, council houses, whatever you want to call it, but he won't allow people to own those homes. So the whole thing about, social mobility, upward mobility, they don't want to allow the people to do better. They don't want people to own assets. You know, they will carry on.
They want state control, right? And we also know, we also know, you're not as old as me, nobody is, but any socialist government in the past, and I've said this repeatedly, will do what they always do, which is to placate the unions or whatever public service workers they want to give a pay rise to. They will essentially either raise taxes on Middle England, or they will borrow money or print it, and inflation will get to 30% and everybody will feel financially a lot worse off. And it wasn't that I didn't think that Burnham was a socialist, but I was just pretty shocked about how it just was tone deaf to me. You make the point about no questions. I thought it would be... I mean, Dan Hodges said, well, this is because he's on the back foot. Dan Hodges said this is because they expected Starmer to stay till September. Listen, I'm a little bit shocked, but I just want to ask you about Starmer as well, because this will make you smile, because this is brilliant. Today's the defence spending review he's going to announce. It's taken months. He lost his job, actually, primarily because his defence secretary said, you don't want to defend the nation. But, Sarah, how crap a politician is he? Let me put this to you. So today, what a legacy. He's going to announce £14.5 billion, which is basically going to replace high-end destroyers with 6 low-cost drones. Well, they're going to be made by Origami, to be perfectly honest. But anyway, he's going to give £14.5 billion, which is half of what the military chiefs asked for, and that's his idea of a legacy. If I was Keir Starmer, I don't know if you heard me say this before, I would have said, do you know what? Not only do you deserve 28, I'm going to give you 38, because I'm going to be damn well out of here in 3 weeks, and that who took my job, he can clear the mess up. That's a legacy. He's not even intelligent enough to do that, Keir Starmer, is he?
But the point is the Tory government for 14 years and now this Labour government have accelerated the destruction, the demise of our ability to defend ourselves as a nation. The most important priority for a government should be the safety and security of its people. And yet neither of the two big parties have done anything about that. Look, Reform have said straight away that we will increase that defence budget up until the point that, you know, we are secure once again.
How will you pay? How will you pay for it? Because that's what people always want to know. How will you pay for it, Reform?
We will do it by stopping this incessant bill for illegal asylum seekers in this country. We've only just heard, haven't we, that 35,000 illegals are going to cost this country in a lifetime £5 billion. What a joke! £141,000 per illegal asylum seeker. And under Shabama Mahmood, who's suddenly not quite so right-wing as she's been making out because she wants a job with Burnham, suddenly they're all allowed to stay and indefinite leave to remain. Her policy there is, bitch, there's a U-turn there. It's an absolute disgrace. But not only that, we've got to slash the welfare bill. Andy Burnham didn't mention that. Nope. And when you talk about asking questions, you can ask me, Jeremy, any question about policy, about what Reform will do when they get into government.
True, you come on, you're very, very open. So
we will tell you.
Absolutely. And the Labour Party won't come on. And I, I'm not into the complete conspiracy theories, but I do think it is highly dubious. I mean, as an MP, presumably you'll agree with this. He could be, we call him Coronation Chicken. Do you see what I did there? He could be coronated on the 16th or 17th of July and spend the best part of 6 weeks getting his feet under the desk of Downing Street without having to even appear in the House of Commons in front of the MPs. I'm sure you'd agree with me. His first, if he wins, he should recall Parliament for a day so that the parties, cross parties, can set questions to the new Prime Minister. Don't you agree with that?
I do, and there are so many big questions. He didn't talk about Europe, did he? Not once. And yet we know he wants to take us back into Europe. I think he was completely disingenuous to the voters of Makerfield who voted to leave the EU. Andy Burnham wants to take us back in, and we know part of the New Deal that the Europeans will put on the table is that we take the euro and lose our pound. What British person actually is aware of that and actually would think that that was acceptable? So come on, Andy Burnham, are you going to take us into Europe? Are you going to risk us losing our own currency? Again, another part of our identity. These are the questions we want answered. What is your position, for example, on female safe spaces, Andy Burnham? Because you've U-turned on that, and it's so important to half of the population that is female. What is your position, Andy Burnham, on our farming industry and getting British food on the table? Endless questions that he's not able to answer. What is he going to do about this HS2? He's talking about HS2 Light. This is one of the biggest scandals of a generation. And he's talking about bringing it back, HS2 Light, linking it up to Northern Powerhouse Rail, which is ill thought through. And by the way, achieves nothing, Northern Powerhouse Rail in its current format. More billions wasted. And how much is it going to cost us to move his office to Manchester? Which, let's face it, this is not a presidential situation. He can't run this country like Trump might want to from Mar-a-Lago. He has to run this country from Parliament.
He wants to work from home,
London.
Sarah Pootchin. Don't be so unfair. I think you're brilliant. I think you've absolutely nailed it this morning. I agree with everything that you've said, and it'll be very interesting to see how the crock of the North turns out. Did you have a question for me as I'm doing a live 4-hour presser before you go?
Oh, yeah. So my question to you is, if I was the Prime Minister, what position would you like in my cabinet?
Wow. What position would I like with Sarah Pootchin is what she just asked me on national radio. I would like to be the Culture and Media Secretary. Through no bitterness at all, I'd like to defund the BBC and go to every sporting event I've ever been. Would you give me that job?
100%. You've got it.
Love you, SP. You're a legend. Thank you so much indeed for coming on. Sarah Pootchin, First Lady of Reform, Runcorn and Helsby, taking on Andy Burnham, as you should. Trevor, good morning.
Good morning, Jeremy. Well, as you've got your free speech open questions today, I want to ask you, do you think Starmer, and particularly the Labour Party, have diminished the armed forces just in case those very same armed forces turn on them? Trevor in Harrow.
Probably not, but I think they've decimated the armed forces because they have no respect for our servicemen and women, and I think the Troubles Bill is an utter national disgrace, and Hermer should be flung out of office, and we should never, ever have sold the Chagos Island. Right, couple of minutes of sport coming up. Push the button, please, Big M.
In 90 seconds. From The Sun.
Let's say a very good morning to Martin Blackburn, football writer at The Sun. I never thought I'd be saying this to you with 2 minutes to go. Germany out and Holland out, boy.
I know. What a night it was, Jeremy. You know, I don't think either game was, certainly not the Germany game. It wasn't a classic, but what drama, you know, in the penalty shootout. Holland against Morocco as well. Holland go out. So that's two of the big sort of European heavyweights gone, Jeremy.
And everybody's walking around TalkSport going, doesn't make any bloody difference to us on our side of the draw. But fascinating. No, maybe we're wrong about this World Cup. Maybe anybody can essentially win it.
Yeah.
England Wednesday, Congo, DR Congo. How'd you see that going, Mark?
Yeah, I think that'll be. I think, you know, we're hot favourites to win that one, Jeremy. And also, it's in Atlanta, but that's another air-conditioned stadium. So England have been lucky with the sort of conditions that they've had so far. Congo not convincing during the qualifiers. but you know, we're into the knockout stage now, so no margin for error. We've got to turn up on Wednesday and do the job.
A couple of great bits on the back of the Sun today. Harry's new Bayern deal. Rumours yesterday that actually I've only got a bit in, but Barcelona might have tried to buy Harry Kane.
That's right, yeah. I mean, Barcelona often get linked with players during the summer. I think that they like to sort of, from a PR point of view, they like to see themselves linked with the best players. I'm not sure they've got the money to sign him, Jeremy, you know, but he is very happy in Germany. He's done really well out there after that first season when he drew a blank. The last 2 seasons have been excellent for him, and seems settled there. His family are settled there. So, yeah, don't be surprised if he does sign a new contract out in Germany, and maybe we'll never see him again in the Premier League. Who knows?
Martin, do England win the World Cup? Have you changed your mind?
Well, have I not got to ask you, Jeremy, if you're on the podium today? Yes, what do you think?
No, I don't think we've got any chance. But I tell you, we'll make a prediction. You asked me a question. The next manager of Germany will be Jurgen Klopp by a merry mile. Martin Blackburn from The Sun, the brilliant Sun. Great coverage every day of the World Cup. Also, our sister station, TalkSport. Anything and everything you need. England, next game on Wednesday. It's Talk Breakfast.
The battle is really on, though, for number 11. Who's going to be the Chancellor? Ed Miliband, don't forget, has played an integral key role in this coup, and it is a coup because no one apart from 25,000 good people in Makerfield have voted for this guy. He is, you know, probably the most left-wing person in the government, and he will spook the markets. He's a big spender. He's very anti-business. His net zero plans have led Britain, you know, into a seriously, you know, tricky waters. There's rumours that you know that there could be some movement on net zero from Andy Burnham. So putting Ed Miliband in the Chancellor job makes that very, very hard.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk. across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome along, my friends. Final hour of the JK Breakfast Show on Talk, the home of common sense, for Thursday. No, it's Tuesday. Well done, Jez. It's an age ting. Andy Burnham gave his speech yesterday. We've talked in great detail about how there was no mention of migration. There was absolutely no mention of net zero and the energy costs that have caused so many people problems. No mention of how you need to cut the welfare benefits bill to pay for some of what needs paying for, Andy. No, just word salad. We're going to move to the north. It's all going to be lovely. Everybody's happy. Tim Stanley from The Telegraph. I have to keep reading this because it's my favourite quote at the morning. Under the new number 10 North Korea, politics as we know it is over. Our Andy unveiled his agenda for democratic renewal without even consulting Parliament at a press conference that took absolutely no questions, to the point where Quentin Letts, the sketchwriter from the Mail, legendary friend of everybody, he was banned. You can't ban Quentin. So I thought today, because, you know, bit of fun, it's allowed, isn't it, this miserable world we live in, I would treat this show as a 4-hour live press conference, and you can ask me anything. 0344 499 1000, text to 87222. What's your favourite race course? Mine's Goodwood. Kevin, Southampton. Ditto. Amazing. If they joined it together, can you imagine? Jez, I'm concerned about this sports day that you're taking part in next Wednesday. Please don't do the three-legged races. You might quash the only one you've got left in terms of balls, and it could be quite painful. I'm just concerned about your well-being. It's nice, isn't it? Jez, every time callers try to call you, the phone is picked up and then the caller is cut off by your telephonist. Oh, Tommy. Coronated Jez is not standard English. You should be saying crowned. Have a good day. Of course coronated isn't English, but coronation chicken is supposed to be a play on words because Burnham... Oh, for God's sake. Wayne, good morning.
Good morning, Jezza, man of the people, alarm clock, Britain's saviour. Let's ask some questions. We know you love a glamp. We know you love a pedicure. But I have a serious question. What's the secret to a happy marriage? Hang on a minute. I'm just Wikipedia. Oh. Maybe ask one of the other team.
Yeah, married 3 times, honestly. My dad said to me, I said to my dad, how long, I've told this, how long you been married? 60 years, he said. You get less than that for double murder. Jez, says Angie, glamping or a comfy hotel without the kids? Remember your answer for future reference. I mean, obviously, glamping with the kids. The thought of even a night in a luxury hotel with the wife, I mean, it doesn't happen, does it? It's changed. I mean, I'm 60, but it's amazing having young kids. It's really fulfilling and fills me full of energy and vitality, and I love it. I love it so much. No, they don't. My eyes don't tell it. I've said before with kids, no sleep, no sex and no money. It's fantastic. Wouldn't you just want to do it? Mark's looking at me. Mark's back today, by the way. We found out the real reason he was off the show yesterday. He had a haircut by the council. 0344 499 1000. We have to say a very good morning to a man who I feel might ask me a question on the Jeremy Kyle live presser, the deputy chairman of the Tory party. He gets me into trouble every time he comes on this show. There he is with his very, very far-right flag. Matt Vickers, good morning.
Do you know, you say that I get you into trouble. My mother said to me the other day, you want to be careful hanging around with that Jezza. He's leading you astray, he's getting you into trouble.
She didn't say that when she was out with me the other night, Mrs Vickers Senior, did she, I could be old enough to be your dad.
But quite possibly, actually.
How old are you?
Makeup than me. You got better makeup than me.
How old are you?
We've done this, haven't we? How old do you think I am, Jez?
32?
Yeah, I'll take that.
42. How old are you?
42. I'm still young enough to be your grandson.
I could still. Went out with your mum when I was 18. Matty, do you want to ask me a question? Andy Burnham?
I do.
Right.
So on Friday, I was running round, doing the morning round, which means I get interviewed by 10 or 11 lesser broadcasters.
Good boy, Vickers, good boy.
Lesser presenters who all asked me quite similar questions about the news of the day. And the guy who walks around with me, making sure I get the right place at the right time, sat opposite me, is looking at me as I'm being interviewed by you. And he's like, what the hell are you on about? Because he can only hear what I'm saying. And he's wondering what I'm going on about this Calippo for. Because do you remember what you asked me on Friday? No. You asked me, you were the only presenter, bizarrely, believe it or not, on all of the news channels, who asked me if I slept in the buff and also whether it involved a Calippo. Do you sleep in the buff and does it involve a Calippo?
Do you know what? We do try... Well, it was hot, and a lot of people on Friday were giving us how they'd kept cool. I mean, certain stations were still talking about Trump, but, you know, I think you have to relate to the people. Good question.
They didn't ask me that on Sky, they didn't ask me on LBC, they didn't ask me on GB, they didn't ask me anywhere but talk.
Because it's boring.
Keeping it real.
You see, this is keeping it real. This is what I say to a lot of people here. They go, well, sometimes you deviate. Yes, because people are fed up with boring, bloody, miserable news the whole time. We just have to keep it real. Talking of which, and I really, really was interested in... When I found out you were on today, buddy, I was pleased because you are a Northern MP. You are proud of your roots, OK? Andy Burnham yesterday, and I want to just try and get your take on this. He talked in very general terms about rewiring a Britain stuck in the rut. He's been slightly attacked, well, massively attacked about, you know, Downing Street and number 10 up north. I'm not bothered about that. He's talked about council houses, the second biggest build since the Second World War. I think if we look back, Starmer said exactly the same. He's talked about regional control increasing. Well, we know what happened with the SNP in Scotland on that. Essentially, I would gather state intervention, social housing, which probably will end up being given to 83 migrants who moved into new builds in South Stoke in Shropshire today. But the thing for me, on a serious note for once, is I think politics, and you do this well, is about trying to glean what people are concerned about. And I suspect that if you went to any constituency and knocked on any door, every single person in this country would mention one of the following three things. Immigration stopping the boats, net zero and an energy cost that is ludicrous. Start drilling, you total bunch of numbskulls. And let's do something about the welfare benefits bill. Concept great, reality people are gaming it, and as a result our public services are stretched. For example, defence we can't afford. I don't understand why a man who's got the Labour Party there and who's got a fantastic opportunity has the political nous to at least mention these things. Because in not doing it, he is immediately being called Keir Starmer 2.0, Matt Vickers.
Well, this is the man who is apparently coming to save the country. He's going to save the Labour Party. He's going to fix everything. And his big idea, his big plan is to hand power from one set of politicians to another set of politicians. He didn't have anything to say about how he's going to sort out our broken welfare system. He didn't have anything to say about how he's going to sort out our defence and start funding it properly so that we're actually going to be safe for the next few years. He had nothing to say about those taxes that are strangling families and businesses across this country. And he had nothing to say about that million people, those million young people who are out of work with nowhere to go, no education, no employment, no training. So little to say. It was all just puff pieces about fluffing money around the country. Absolutely shameful. Nothing to say on immigration, nothing to say on benefits, nothing to say on jobs, nothing to say on tax. Absolutely appalling. If this is the solution the country's been waiting for, then we are in a very, very bad place.
You represent a constituency that would be... there would be a lot of working-class people there. This is what he said about working-class aspirations. I'd love to get your take on this, Matty. This is Andy Burnham yesterday.
When we were growing up here, amongst the friends we had at school, there were two things that were the foundations of working-class aspiration. A council home, a secure home that was the foundation for everything, and then good technical education. And those things have been taken away in the decades since. So no wonder so many young people struggle to make it work and then don't make it work. Don't blame them. Blame ourselves. We haven't been giving people this stability, this ability to get on in life. And it's time we did and brought back working class aspiration, the chance of somebody growing up here to be everything that they can be. And that's what we'll do.
How, Matt Vickers? How? I mean, he talks about working class aspiration. This is a kid who quite rightly went from a council estate to Oxbridge He's never had a job, by the way, that isn't political, but that's fine. I agree with him about aspiration. Maybe I'm old-fashioned. That comes from within. That comes from your parents. Where's the detail about how he's going to change people's lives?
Well, it's also about, he's talking about vocational education. Yes, we do need vocational education, but we also need jobs and vocations at the end of that. This government is trashing our economy. 19% more people unemployed. Businesses going to the wall at the fastest rate since the world economic crash. Since this lot got in, more than 500,000 businesses have been closed. People can't pay the employment right. They can't work out the employment rights bill. They can't pay the increased business rates. They can't pay the youngster who wants to get on the job, get on and get given the first chance in life because of that national insurance increase. That's what you need to do. You need to enable people who work hard, who do the right thing, to keep a bit of money in the pocket. And if they want to create jobs for someone, we should thank them very much for it, not tax them into extinction. It's all going the wrong way.
But that is so true, right? So on the one hand, you've got all of these small businesses, and you've done this long enough for me to know that they contact us the whole time saying, the energy bills are through the roof. The NI is so demonstratively bigger than it was. It's impossible for me to keep going. There's a story of a shop in my area, and the guy was a really brilliant dry cleaners, and he shut after 18 years because his energy bill is 5 times more than it was 2 years ago, and it's just not sustainable. So on the one hand, you've got net zero madness, which causes energy bills, which destroys businesses, and then you've got these ludicrous rules and laws. And then on the other hand, you know, you've got this sort of... It's fine to talk the talk, but, you know, for example, right, why have I not, and you're going to say Kemi, and I get that, you're going to say Farage, I get that, I want a politician in power that says, I really like the welfare state. I think it's a genius invention that stood for the great things of Britain. But it's time for us to be honest. There's 2 million people who are taking the mickey out of the system, are gaming it, are feckless and lazy, and the genuine are missing out, and the country's taxpayers are paying for it. It's not far right. It's not racist. That's a factual comment. That's what Was I naive, Matt, to expect him to be like that? I just thought he'd be more on the ball, mate. It was whiffle waffle to me. There was nothing... When I heard it, I was like, wow. And they've called this man to save the country. I was a little bit surprised.
Well, the welfare system... I mean, this country's welfare system is completely broken. Welfare spending is meant to increase by 20 billion this year. Who's paying for that? All them guys who are on the way to work this morning... They're paying for that. The system is unfair. What is the point when there are people not working who are taking home more than people who are working? It can't carry on like that. There is no point in going to work if they allow this to continue. The welfare system is meant to be there as a safety net. It's a hand up. It's meant to be there when you fall on hard times, when you fall on tough times, or for those people who can't actually work, genuinely disabled, unable to work people need that support. But actually, we're being taken the mickey out of. We've allowed this thing to expand beyond all proportion to the point where people are making choices to stay at home. That 2-child cap, absolutely appalling to anybody who's out there struggling to make ends meet. I mean, we talk about employers. This government seems to think it is a terrible thing to create jobs and make a profit. No, that is what is needed to fund the public services. That is what is needed to give every youngster the chance to get on in life. Profit is not a dirty word. Creating jobs is not a dirty concept. It's what we need. Every small business person I talk to wants to look after their staff. They want to pay them well. They want to treat them well. But actually, the fact that they're being hammered with tax means they can't take the chance on that youngster who they might have given an opportunity to, because they're being squeezed out of business. It's appalling.
Alison says something quite contentious. Can you explain to me how getting a council tax is aspirational? Can Matt help me with that? Council house.
It's an interesting angle. It's getting a house and getting the opportunity to get on the ladder is something that everybody should have. Everybody should have a place to call home.
Yeah.
That is positive. Council houses have a rightful place in that space. And then what you look at the right to buy. What was that? It was about people who couldn't get on the housing ladder, getting the chance to acquire a house, have a home, have somewhere to call home, look after and invest in, and then go on to hopefully be able to buy that house. It's the right thing. More aspiration will be giving people the opportunity to get great jobs, get on in life and buy a home.
That's what Margaret Thatcher did. Lovely take on this front page of The Sun today, Matty. Sun investigation. Julia Atherley, great work. Migrant Street. This is in Stoke Heath in Shropshire. 83 asylum seekers, so illegal migrants, moving into 250 grand new builds. Let me just read this to you, because Burnham, of course, talked about more social housing, which has led to lots of my viewers going, So what, we're going to build social houses and give them to migrants? Jez, Gary from Scole in Norfolk. Social housing for migrants, all as if we didn't see that coming. Disgusting what this government is doing to secure their voting base. They know they've lost the British public and are grifting for votes elsewhere. I wonder if any of those self-righteous lefties would be happy if this was happening in their street or their town, Matt Vickers.
Well, you know what makes it more striking to me? I was out knocking on doors in my patch yesterday. I was talking to young people, talking to a bloke. He's like, I cannot get the deposit together for this house. The electricity bill has gone up. Labour said his electricity bill was going to go down by 300 quid. His electricity bill has gone up. He's paying more. Do you remember Starmer said not a penny more on council tax? His council tax has gone up. Everything about life is more expensive. He cannot get that deposit together to get that house. And he'll look in that paper this morning and will be absolutely infuriated about a country that is not fair, that isn't working for people who work hard and do the right thing. And it's just another slap in the face to all those people out there.
Couldn't agree more, man of the people. The other thing is devolution, right? I mean, I said this, Paul in Fife, Jez and Matt. Is he blind? Has he not looked at Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland as examples of devolution, which has not only been disastrous to these countries, but has done irreparable damage to the UK? Or is this the master plan to continue what Starmer has started and destroy this country? I get that as well.
You look at what's gone on in Scotland and Wales, you look at what's happened to their NHS, to their education systems, the knife crime in certain parts of the world. It's stuff in drug crime. I mean, nothing has worked about areas of that devolution, but there is opportunities to empower local people to make decisions. The reality is you're just putting one gang of politicians in place to control something and have power over something rather than another gang. What people want to hear from the person who is meant to come in and solve these problems is what he's going to do about immigration, what he's going to do about our economy to make sure people can go out and get a job, what he's going to do to bring their costs down, their taxes down, so that they can actually afford to live. They can afford to buy one of those houses that they're giving away to migrants, and what he's doing to keep this country safe. The reason that the last Prime Minister went, in the end, despite everything else that he made a mess of, was because of that defence investment plan, because he's not, in the words of his own Defence Secretary, putting the money in that we need to keep our country safe, to look after those armed forces individuals, those people, soldiers on the front line, to look after our country's interests in an ever more dangerous world. He had no solutions to any of those problems yesterday, to the things that actually matter, to the people in my street. He didn't have an answer. It was all just about swirling power around across different politicians.
But my point to you is, as a member of Parliament, do your ilk, not you, do your ilk not understand the I hate to sound like Citizen Smith, I don't mean the power of the people. Do they not understand, Matty, that actually the British public have woken up and they're not prepared? You know, people said to me, they'll never be... I was told 2 years ago that Starmer would last 2 years and I laughed. The pressure from the media and the public and politicians mean that he's gone within 23 months. Andy Burnham had a bounce before just as he won Makerfield. 6 days later, his approval rating's gone down 6%. That was before yesterday. I absolutely agree with my friend who says by Christmas he'll be bang in trouble.
Well, look at Keir Starmer. He had 2 years too long, didn't he? The reality is the Labour Party didn't kick him out when he forced them all through the lobby to vote to remove that winter fuel allowance. They didn't vote him out when he completely betrayed those veterans who put their lives on the line for this country. They didn't kick him out when he absolutely did over farming and food security in this country. Oh, the list goes on. The list goes on. All of those things he inflicted on the British people, they didn't jump up and kick him out. They kicked him out and things got turbulent the minute they thought their jobs were on the line, when those local elections were lost and they were absolutely battered in them. All of a sudden, the Labour MPs on those back benches woke up. Well, he's had 2 years too long. It's a disaster, and I don't think the solutions are going to be any better under Burnham, because it's the same Labour MPs sat behind him who aren't realistic about cutting welfare, who aren't realistic about standing on the side of people who work hard and do the right thing. We saw Pat McFadden out there, the Secretary of State for Work and Pensions, told us every meeting is about Labour MPs coming forwards to ask us who we can tax more to fund more benefits. That's what's wrong with this country. People are paying more in tax and not getting anything for it because it's being consumed in an ever-increasing benefits bill.
Somebody came on yesterday saying that if Burnham continues as he does, there seem to be a few issues surrounding reform. That's what some of the papers are saying. That they could see a situation where all the other two main parties start to gain ground on reform as we head towards autumn. There's no doubt, Matt, that many a commentator, myself included, think that Kemi Badenoch has been spot on recently. Spot on. Is it frustrating, though, and I know you put in the hard yards, as do many other Tory MPs, is it frustrating that that isn't beginning to yet show on the national level, or is that something you believe will happen, or is it a course of frustration?
The thing with Kemi is she doesn't say what people wants to hear, what they want to hear. She says what she thinks is right. She stands by that. You don't have to agree with everything she says.
No.
There's always know where you stand with her. That's the offer that we're going to put forward. It's going to be one about being realistic about what is ahead. We're not going to go and buy crowds off with promises of benefits, with promises of... We're going to go out there and tell the country what it needs. That's exactly who she is. That's what she's about. And Britain will have the choice. And actually, the public out there aren't stupid. People who are getting up early to go to work this morning and realise the country isn't working in their interests can have a look at Kemi. They can listen to what she's saying about welfare. They can listen to what she's going to do to support businesses, to help create jobs and opportunities for young people. And they'll make that decision at the next election. And I hope they make the right decision.
Great to have you on, mate. Are you away this week on holiday, then?
Well, I'm up in the patch. I've been knocking on doors. So I opened a railway station yesterday in my constituency. A railway station we got money to in 2020 when I was elected. It's finally open. It's got disabled access, got a new car park. It's brilliant for my part of the world.
Amazing. Did you arrange the finance for that?
We did. In fact, you know what? Rishi Sunak, one of the greatest things he ever did was putting money aside for Eaglescliffe train station. Really positive thing.
I mean, all of this is great, but are you doing the papers in the morning on this show?
Well, I was meant to be in this morning, Joseph, but I nicked off. I might be in tomorrow. I might be in on Thursday. They'll text
Oh,
me.
you just decide whenever you want. Don't worry about it. You're that important. You come... the train's not running. Of course they're not. It's too hot. Listen, Matty...
my employers.
Good man. Good job. Thank you, Matt Vickers, Deputy Chairman of the Tory Party. What is it? 9:23. So many people. Let's do a call. Let's go to London. Danny, you're on Talk Breakfast. Good morning.
Good morning, sir. About his speech yesterday, when he said he's going to build a record amount of council homes, didn't Angela Rayner say that when Labour got in, I'm going to build 1.5 million council homes?
Yeah, how did that go?
Yeah, well, we all know. And second of all, who's going to pay for these council homes and who's going to live in them?
You and migrants. Don't be so stupid, man. You know the answers. You're going to pay for them and illegal migrants are going to live in them. What's your problem with that?
Oh, it's so sad what's happened to this country, Jeremy.
Right.
It is so sad. It is, honestly.
But do you know what? Even people in this building go, Jez, come on. No, I'm not going to go on. I'm going to keep doing this every single day because I actually know it's not just you and me, Danny. There are millions of people who are not far right. They're not unfair. They're not this. They're not that. They're just hard-working alarm clock Brits. They're just mums who do the school run and do an amazing job. Dads who work on the light. Long-distance lorry drivers, cabbies, people in factories, people outside, people inside who go... I'm really sorry, Jess, but I've tried to do it correctly and I feel like I've just been made to look like a chump, really. And those people will not allow this to continue. And that, Danny, is what keeps me going. I appreciate your call, my friend. 9:25. Lillian, good morning.
Morning, Jessa. What about the pensioners? What about crime? What about veterans? What about energy? What about stopping the boats? What about stopping migration? What about stopping benefits to them who shouldn't have it? What about cost to us taxpayers creating another number 10?
Starmer's old news. On to the next. There we go. That was Andy Burnham. Just drove through there on his way to the palaces of Westminster to be sworn in as an MP and, of course, on his route to number 10.
I swear by Almighty God that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to His Majesty King Charles,
his heirs and successors according to law. So help me God.
There was two things on that manifesto. One was a picture of Keir Starmer and the word change. Well, promise made and promise delivered in that sense.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
We have an amazing young man working on the show called Tommy, and Tommy's like everything to me. He's amazing. And I just said, oh, God, I wish I could take you home. And Christian went, point of order, you can't take the staff home, Jez. That's not acceptable. You can't even take one of the bog rolls from this building home. 0344 499 1000. Rob in Newcastle, good morning, son.
Morning, Jez. Well, the King of the North arrived yesterday, didn't he, in quite some style. He talked a load of baloney, as I was expecting him to do, and I think most of the people who tune into your show never mentioned once the biggest talking point in the country, immigration. Let that just be a lesson to all to hang on to your hats for what he's about to do. And then the headline from The Sun, all of these migrants. Can you imagine sitting somewhere else in the world and this pops up? Because this will make front pages in lots of countries. The absolute madness of what we'll continue to do. Given people who've paid nothing into this system, it is absolutely mental, and it drives me to despair, as it does many people on here. Stick on in there. Something's got to change. We can only pray that Farage sticks on in there, sticks to his guns, and becomes the next Prime Minister of this country, or we really are doomed. Morning, everyone.
Thank you, Rob. Interestingly, I also wanted to touch upon, we've talked about defence, we've talked about the lack of discussion from Burnham about illegal immigration, net zero, welfare cuts. One thing he did say was we need a complete rethink of how young people are supported to succeed. That has to start with the education system. During a speech, he said, the days of a school system configured entirely around the university route will be brought to an end. Two things. This man went to Oxford, right? And secondly, I would respectfully suggest that if the Labour's current education secretary did a little bit more about concentrating on, what kids can learn, maybe even just, the old basics, the 3 hours, instead of filling our schools with ideological crap, I would say that our next generation will be a lot better off. This was Burnham on education.
The days of a school system configured entirely around the university route will be brought to an end. University is great for those who want it, but when are we going to focus on the life chances of those kids who want something different? When? The country hasn't done that for a long, long time. People have argued over many years for an education system based on parity between academic and technical, and that is what we will build, giving every young person growing up here a clear path into a reindustrialised Britain.
If ever you want to talk about politics, education, there's only one man. Executive head teacher of the St Thomas the Apostle School. He's the top man, Serge Safi. Very good morning, sir.
Morning, Jeremy.
Looking down on me again, teacher.
Yeah, sorry.
Now, I'm slightly, you know me, I sort of agree. I'm just going to say what I think. I think there are too many universities and too many colleges and too many mediocre courses now. That sounds very elitist. I think that's important. I also believe education should be more practical. And I firmly believe that there are many kids, my son included, who it's no good doing A-levels at 16. I mean, he's just got his first job. Bless him, right? I still believe that there are kids who would learn as much going to work and doing an apprenticeship and learning at 16. But I do think our education system needs changing. The ideology that the Labour Party has brought in needs to be brought out. What did you take from Burnham? Was it word salad, or did you agree with it?
Exactly, word salad is pretty good. Just your previous guest, another politician, actually, you were agreeing with quite a lot of what he said, so did I. And then, of course, you have to remember, but blimey, weren't you in power, for goodness sake? So I'm sick of the talk. There's no substance to all of it. I'm fed up with the political class. Do I agree with what some of them say? Yes, but it never comes to anything. And, let's talk about we could go on and on, but let's just stick with the university thing that you've picked up. You know, I don't want kids going to university if it doesn't lead to a job. And can we just start talking about what education is for? We are supposed to, as an education system, if we're not producing children who grow into adults who can positively contribute to the society that they live in, then we're doing something wrong. And we're doing a hell of a lot wrong. I don't want certain kids to go to university because actually, just like your son perhaps, you know, I think they're better off going down another route. They're a great kid, they've got other talents, but they're not really academics. And some of these courses, never mind the rip-off of the interest payments of the loan, right? Some of these courses, they're a complete and utter waste of time.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, education for me is massively important, but I think I've probably told you this story before. Education should be, I'm not saying tailored to every kid, and I know how much pressure teachers are under, and I genuinely acknowledge that. It's like the police. You can't even tell a kid off nowadays because they'll take you to the European Court of Justice or something and get you thrown in the can. But I somehow think that we, certainly this Bridget Phillipson, they spend so much time trying to appear to do the right things that they miss what education is about. You know, the 3 hours, but more than that. You know, just practical stuff that I don't see, and unfortunately, and maybe I sound like that. I think the university system should be elitist. I don't. I think everybody should have an opportunity. But this blanket approach, you've got to stay on. My boy wants to be a professional golfer, right? And he will be a professional golfer. And however good he is, and he is bloody good, right? He ain't not going to work. He gets his first job this week as a trainee greenkeeper in the holidays this year and weekends. Fantastic. I don't care what you earn. You're learning. You've got to do that. Under certain systems, he'd have to stay at school. And he'd have to do A-levels, and I'm not being rude to him. He's not going to get any A-levels. He can hit a golf ball better than anybody I've ever seen, but he's not going to get A-levels. I don't know why we don't have that flexibility. I don't know what It's all a bit, to me, the Andy Burnham thing was all a bit lovely.
But that's why I'm sick of politics, and, you know, we need to take certain things away from these politicians and their advisors, wherever they drag them up from, because no one ever talks to people I know do the job properly. You know, but it's all about choices. Your lad wants to be a golfer, but loads of lads want to play football for England and everything else. These are wonderful dreams. They shouldn't be curtailed. On the other hand, it might not happen. No. It might not happen. So you sending him to work, absolutely the right thing to do. So he's got something to fall back on. I think that one day he might come in useful. But it's about choices. It's too narrow. And the other thing we're doing is making excuses for kids. I'm really upset about these million kids sitting at home. Doing what? Playing PlayStation on their damn phones? You know, it's wrong. And we've caused all that. My generation, your generation, we've caused all that. You know, we've made them, you know, kids aren't stupid. Give them a chance. They're wonderful, you know, but they're not stupid. If they can sit at home playing PlayStation and get almost as much money on welfare as someone to go work 5 days a week, you know, what are you going to do? You can't even get them to clean the bedroom, never mind anything else.
I remember doing a survey a few years ago when we were doing the television show, and still to this day, Serge, this sort of sends me over the edge. The highest percentage, the two highest percentages of what people wanted to be, these were 13 and 14-year-old kids, was rich and famous.
Yeah.
And I don't, look, I'm quite happy they take the mickey at me because I say I'm old. We had to go to work. We had to, and what surprises me about Burnham, because as somebody said, I half expected the Hovis ad music to be playing when he was talking yesterday. The real working class ethos is not standing there talking about techno, this, that and the other. It's getting up in morning and walking uphill and going to graft and supporting your family. And I know that. Spent 15 years in Manchester. That's what I tell my kids, and that's what more parents should tell. And of course, education. It shouldn't be a hindrance. Education should be something that enhances, as you quite rightly said, your chance to get a job. But I don't feel like universities do, I'm afraid, because they've offered too much. And I think that certain schools are so wrapped up in trying... A bit like broadcasters. I'll get a look from people. Do you know what's wrong with most broadcasters? They spend so much time scared of losing their job, they forget to do their job. And it is exactly the same for teachers.
I just said that. They're scared to do the right thing by the kids. I spent 47 years fighting for the kids because I benefited from people who told me the truth as it was, and gave me some aspiration. You know, and I think one of your listeners just rang in and said, well, if the aspiration is to get a council house, excuse me, where's your expectation level there, for God's sake, for our youth? You know, they want to own their own house. They do want to be rich and famous. But unfortunately, for most people, unless you're lucky, all right, you're going to have to work damn hard for it. And that's what we're not instilling in our kids. Work hard. You can get stuff, but you're going to have to work for it. You're going to have to turn up on time. You're going to have to dress appropriately. You're going to have to, you know, all that basic stuff that no one wants to measure anymore, you know. So let's get back to basics. As adults, let's start taking responsibility and bringing up our kids properly. Let's not find any more labels for people to hide behind, so that instead of realising that kid's going down the wrong route, he's doing something wrong, let's find a label to excuse it. No, by all means, if the label's there, let's do it. But let's not forget what they've gone wrong at and put them right. The phones, for instance, and for goodness sake, for the last 15, 20 years, I've been taking phones every morning and giving them back at the end of every day. And guess what? The kids don't worry about losing them. They forget they've got them, and they talk to each other and play sport in the playground. You know, why is that so difficult? Parents, I have to remind my parents, who owns the damn phones? I have this little regime when I give the assemblies. Put up your hands if your son or daughter owns a mobile phone. And of course, they all put their hands up. And then I say, now keep your hand up if your son or daughter's got a job and is paying the contract. And they put their hands down. I said, so who owns the phone? And yet children are not letting their parents look at what's on the phone, let alone taking it. Now, I try and step in, but we've all, as adults, let's take responsibility and let's talk about, you want another 3 hours on the youth justice system. Another thing, crazy, we're letting kids get away with murder. They're kids, they're going to do stupid things. So who's going to tell them that's stupid and you're not doing it because there's going to be repercussions? Nobody, because everybody's going backwards, you know, and making excuses for them. Yeah, and you're welcome to come to my school anytime you like. Come and meet some of my kids.
I will do.
You know, come and meet them. They're fine with boundaries. They're fine when they know that.
You know what, Serge, and I got to move, and I would love to accept that offer. I was brought up by parents who said, listen, there are the boundaries, there are rules, and if you break the boundaries, there'll be consequences. Yeah. You're going to learn to respect and be decent, and you are going to pay your way, and you're going to go to work. And that is the only way that I know, and it's the only way that my kids will know, and that's the way it is, mate. I couldn't agree more. Listen, buddy, always great to have you on. We love the bones of you. Thank you so much indeed. Executive Head Teacher of St Thomas's the Apostle School, the brilliant Serge Safi. 20 minutes to 10 o'clock. We're live across the UK. Let's go to Tunbridge Wells. William, good morning. You're on Talk Breakfast.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir. We haven't got long. What do you want?
Well, just to say, we're a small country. We can walk the length and breadth of Britain. We do not need another parliament, which Andy Burnham can walk from Manchester to London to Westminster. And why does this bloke think we should spend all this money on another parliament?
Because his theory, I presume, is that if he puts a hub, a centre of government in Manchester, that will show that London isn't where it's all at. I sort of get that, but that's window dressing. If you want to encourage the North, then you have to encourage business in the North. And the Labour Party, all right, are destroying businesses because there are high energy costs and national insurance increases and workers' rights, ridiculous new rules. That's what Andy Burnham needs to do to improve business. That's the only way it works. William, thank you very much indeed. James, good morning.
Morning, Jezza. James from Liverpool here, in a much better mood today after seeing that inspiring speech from On the Buses Burnham, the King of the North. Imagine if we had growth in every postcode. He is actually going to succeed because we've got growth in energy costs, we've got growth in council tax, we've got growth in food costs, we've got growth in insurance costs, we've got growth in the number of immigrants, and we've got growth in the crime numbers. We can't actually go wrong because he's nearly there already. And all he's going to do is add to that with more debt, more immigrants, higher bills, higher taxes, higher everything else. So, yes, after that speech yesterday, I'm sorry, Reform, you've lost my vote. It's going to On the Buses Burnham. Have a great day, my friend.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Thank you very much indeed for all of your input this morning. 17 minutes to 10 o'clock. Jezza, you just said, you've just been told off by Christian you can't take the staff home because you wanted Tommy. Mind you, the truth is you've already got staff at home, haven't you, Jez? I bet you won't read this out. I haven't got any staff. I wouldn't call... anyway, 0344... I said that was a bit Rachel Reeves, wasn't it? That was completely Rachel Reeves. 0344 499 1000. Now, I want to call to arms. You know, hard-working Brits yesterday listened to Andy Burnham and he talked about working class aspiration. Let's hear from Andy on working class aspiration.
When we were growing up here, amongst the friends we had at school...
Sorry, Mark, can you stop? I think we need to put some music behind that, and Christian has picked a rather famous piece of music. Think Orvis as Andy has a chat with you.
When we were growing up here, amongst the friends we had at school, there were two things that were the foundations of working class aspiration. A council home, a secure home that was the foundation for everything, and then good technical education. And those things have been taken away in the decades since. So no wonder so many young people struggle to make it work and then don't make it work. Don't blame them. Blame ourselves. We haven't been giving people this stability, this ability to get on in life. And it's time we did and brought back working class aspiration, the chance of somebody growing up here to be everything that they can be. And that's what we'll do.
And you still have to walk up the bloody hill first thing in the morning. Listen, it's very aspirational. How will a man talking about, you know, working class aspiration, Westminster being moved to the north, the man who says that people need hope, how's that going to affect business? Because we had nothing on welfare, nothing on immigration, nothing on net zero. Business. I'm delighted to be joined by a man, what a financial advisor and markets commentator, Accusations, David Buick. Good morning, David.
Good morning, Jeremy. How amazing that you should have mentioned Dvorak's New World Symphony. And that, do you remember that advert for Hope? Well, you probably weren't even a twinkle in your father's eye in all those days.
I'm sorry. How dare you, David Buick? I'm 61 next Tuesday. I'm an old git.
I say it weren't even a twinkle in your father's eye. Good morning, Jeremy, anyway.
On a serious note, I mean, we've been talking about the different aspects of what Burnham didn't talk about yesterday. I read somebody saying that business is very happy. I mean, he said he's going to stick to the fiscal plans of a chancellor who doesn't know how to add up. Other people have said, no. Look at what Louise Haig, the right-hand woman who was sacked from Transport for Fraud, has been saying. She says more capital gains tax, we can borrow a bit more. Am I right or wrong in saying, David, that every socialist government in the past has either printed or borrowed money they can't afford to pay unions and their mates rises that this country can't afford, and it ends up with high extortionate interest rates, and we go cap in hand to the IMF? Do you see that happening again?
Well, just to say, there was a period just for about 6 months in 1997 when Gordon Brown took over from Ken Clarke, who left him a beautiful balance sheet, but from then it was all downhill. Let's just look at Andy Burnham from the good points. I think the one thing is his presentational skills are good. I think he's got a nice smile. I think he probably offers people hope, but don't count on it. But the rest of it was really a public relations exercise, because as you so rightly say, people like me who all the time just say, I want the arithmetic. Where's this money come? The aspirations for what he wants to do makes a lot of sense. But let's be clear here. He's got huge credence, importance and support and a lot of accolades for what he's done as Mayor of Manchester. But everybody's forgotten what happened when George Osborne started with the Northern Powerhouse, when Andy Haldane got involved with Michael Gove and Boris Johnson to push on with levelling up. It was always there. And the fact is that what they haven't done is grasp the nettle to do it properly. We got nonsenced into this HS2, which is now going to cost something around £160 billion, which we simply cannot afford and we simply don't need. But some of the other things that I do think that people haven't paid attention to, one of the things he raised yesterday was the question of taking closer order on some of the facilities that we have, like water and electricity. He's got no idea what that would cost to buy people out of the private sector. It would be gargantuan. No money. This is the point is, we're talking about a government that has no money. It's only got two ways of doing it, borrowing it. And he's already said in his piece that he's not going to break the fiscal rules, or taxation. Because the one thing he won't do, and no Labour government is prepared to do, is to cut public expenditure, particularly welfare. We know that £330 billion a year is spent on welfare. 166 of it is, of course, the old age pension. But even so, 160 billion pounds of welfare, we can't afford it. And until
it's fascinating. It's fascinating for me. You're a financial man. I remember it really switched on to me about 3 months ago when I was doing the show and they gave me the figures. For the first time in British political history, in our history, the amount of money that we spend in benefits, we pay out 332 billion topped. The money, the tax money, the exchequer gets from people working. That, to me, David, on a very basic level, says a very terrifying thing, which is it is now seemingly not just a career choice, but more beneficial in some instances not to work than work. And that is an issue that is going to peter down. It's like I've been saying all morning. I expected Andy Burnham not to put meat on the bone, but I expected him to doff his cap to the immigration issues, the energy issues, which is why so many businesses are being flawed, because we were promised lower energy bills, we've got higher energy bills, because we're chasing this ideology of net zero by 2030, and our businesses are caving. And it was all, you say was a good orator. I mean, anybody other than Starmer's a good orator, but it just didn't do it for a lot of people who are, as you quite rightly said, just sitting around going, well, it's Starmer 2.0 with a bit more attitude and a bit more oomph.
Well, that's it, I'm afraid. I mean, we need to see the meat on the bone. I mean, some of his plans, it's probably shallow to say that they don't matter and the rest of it. They do, because I think the idea of levelling up right across the country is actually quite a good idea.
I'm sure it is, but he hasn't got the money to do it, which is, as you and I agree, that's the point.
No, he hasn't got the money to do it. That's why the thing I'm waiting to hear, and I'm not deaf despite my being stooped in age, is where's it coming from? That's the point. Yeah. And I can't see the Labour MPs allowing him to make seismic cuts in public expenditure. And that is the only way. You tax people more and people will just throw in the towel. And that's the other thing. I thought, though,
David, I thought that, you know, proven to be utterly naive, I've thought for about a week that because they parachuted him in and because he's got the Parliamentary Labour Party where he wants them, that he would actually be a politician who'd stand in front and say, this is against everything you lot believe in, but the only way that we are not going to be extinct as a political party and an organisation is if we take some unpalatable choices, which Starmer didn't have the balls to stand in front of anybody and say, we're going to make those choices. And I think that is quite relevant. But very quickly, if he doesn't try and at least deal with 3 of those 4 issues that I've talked about, I think by Christmas he'll be bang in trouble, David.
You could be right, Jerry. I'd just like to throw just a little bit of glitter of hope on things. As I understand it, Andy Burnham's inner circle is being coaxed and advised by Lord Jim O'Neill.
Yes.
And Andy Haldane. And I cannot think of 2 better people to proffer advice to him. Whether he listens to it remains to be seen. But if he doesn't, I think he's making a serious error of judgment. These guys are apolitical. I've been privileged enough to meet them both twice. They are apolitical, and if they're not, they don't come across any other way. And what they want is the best for the country. And therefore, Andy Haldane and his advisors, Louise Haig and all these other people, must listen to what they've got to say, because what the advice they give will be sensible and painful.
An absolute pleasure. Will you come on more often, sir? You're a very classy gentleman there. I mean, like having a bit of class on the breakfast show. Is that all right?
I'm as common as dirt, but I'd love to come on again. God bless you.
Lovely, Buick. Thank you very much indeed. Common as muck, Buick, but good to have him on in his shirt. I nearly said to him, I've got 11 down, what's 14 across, but I didn't get a chance. Belinda, good morning.
Jeremy, great show. I'm just phoning up because I would imagine that this country, well, I don't need to imagine, I know they are in absolute despair about what's going on. And no wonder the NHS waiting list is so damn high. It's because people are so stressed about what is going to be going on in the future of their children, their great-grandchildren, their grandchildren, their brothers, their sisters. It's just awful what they are doing to this country. I've been listening to this show now for quite a few years, and the same subjects come up every day, and still nothing is being done. And I'm in just disbelief about what is going on. What are they doing to this country? It's just so upsetting. It's really upsetting.
Sue Woodley, I couldn't agree more. Sue Woodley says, Jez, migrants getting given 83 new houses makes me so mad. I've got 2 adult children in their mid-30s still living at home. They both work and have done since they were 13. Paper round, shop work, both work full-time since they left school. They pay their taxes and insurance. Neither of them have any hope of getting a council house. House prices in our area are not cheap. Rentals are high, yet if they went to France, threw their passports in the sea and came back in a bloody dinghy, they'd be given everything. I know life has never been fair, but to me, we've gone beyond fair. This is absolutely and utterly wrong. Jez, at almost 84 years of age, I just hope I live long enough to see this pile of crap voted out of office. The mind boggles at their lack of consideration for the people. Brexit ignored, illegal immigration ignored. I could go on, but you get the message, unlike these morons. Regards, an angry OAP in Dorset. Paul Hamilton, people are not far right. People are just beginning to wake up. Burnham didn't take questions because he doesn't have the answers. Morning, Jezza, if Burnham moves, number 10 up north, who is going to pay the travel costs for all the people who attend cabinet meetings? Jay in Brighton. Morning, Jez. Martin in Lichfield. Why does Burnham dress like a Zelensky? Is he trying to fool the wise Brits he's an alarm clock grafter? Andy, the Northern Messiah, will soon be as disliked as Starmer. 10 years, 10 months more like. No substance, just platitudes. Dave H. If it does scratch it. Jesse, you will know what the 3 R's are. You do, don't you? I wish that our government adopted, and that is responsibility, reliability and respect, with the discipline to maintain all 3. Could not agree more. Jezza, good grief. If that the level of aspirations Burnham wants is a council house, we want to own our house. What a numpty. Terry in Birmingham, Andy in Northants, making a speech about his 10-year plan and no questions. How damned arrogant. Only just an MP, not just the Prime Minister. Get stuff, Burnham. Who the hell do you think you are? Loads of you texting. Morning, Jez. Andy Burnham is going to be based in Manchester because his eyebrow specialist has refused to move to London. Julia from 10. Ian Collins from 1 and Kevin O'Sullivan on Talk Drive this afternoon from 4 p.m. World Cup competition details in just a tick. This is Talk Breakfast.
Old news. On to the next. There we go. That was Andy Burnham. Just drove through there on his way to the palaces of Westminster to be sworn in as an MP and, of course, on his route to number 10.
I swear by Almighty God that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to His Majesty King Charles, his heirs and successors, according to law. So help me God.
There was 2 things on that manifesto. One was a picture of Keir Starmer and the word change. Well, promise made and promise delivered in that sense.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Just want to read one final text from Linda in Stalybridge. Why have we paid a mortgage for 30 years and then they want to take our home to use money for it when we have to go into a care home? It's disgusting. And everybody else who gets here for free, illegally, gets everything. Julia Hartley-Brewer, that story in the front of the Sun today, 83. I mean, it is disgusting.
I mean,
beyond disgusting.
I know. I mean, with this thing, nothing feels fair anymore. Good thing is, though, Andy Burnham, in his speech yesterday, he addressed a lot of those issues. Oh, no, sorry, he didn't. We just need to build more council houses. Didn't you know that? That's the solution to everything. And we need to move to Manchester. And then everything's absolutely solved in this country. Everything, all the problems we've had, all the things we talk about every day on our shows, all sorted. Brilliant. Great. Can't wait.
I did
Can't
not.
Wait.